Connection established.
Hey, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another show with the ugly, amazing people on again as usual. And we have a lady in the house, guys. So, we've got to keep it all nice now. I mean, oh God, how am I going to do this?
I guess I'll leave now then.
Oh, come on. Well, she might teach us a few words or two. And you never know. Never know. She is an educator after all.
Educator on the streets.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody. Yes, and as usual, we've got Gerald from Midwest Skywatchers, Night Watchers, isn't it? Skywatchers, Night Watchers, Night Watchers. Yeah, and we got Professor Bauer there, Golden Tonsils himself, and then we've got our educator, Heidi Pop. How you going? I got it right this time. Got my teeth in. Goes the weasel, I say, yeah. and our teenager, the man of the moment, our Mr. Traveller, the Indiana Jones of the group, Mr. Jim Goodall.
Hey, yeah. It's an absolute delight to be here. Some of my favorite people right here on the screen. So
I hope later on in the show,
I didn't include you. I was talking about.
I hope later on in the show, Jim, you can actually tell us about what actually happened when you went down to the police last time. So we'll get into that. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, we have the official okay from NISH, Belize National Institute for Culture and Heritage. And they're going to, we've been given the okay to literally clear some or all of the 305-acre complex there. That's going to cost money, but we have, I believe we have everything we need to start. We can't do anything till after middle of January. And in the middle of January, we're going to start removing the underbrush, all the vegetation that's on the pyramid. And we measured the height of the pyramid from the base, which we consider the base, to the top is 270 feet. And if that turns out to be the true height of that pyramid, it'll be the largest one in Belize and possibly Nicaragua as well, as far as a Mayan pyramid. And it's Alfredo, his brother, who is the docent for Ishbin Ka, which is the pyramid complex, and their chief legal person, who's an attorney, they took the bus to go to Belapop, I think, in Belapop, which is north of Belize City. Belize is not a very big country. It's at the widest point, 68 miles wide, and north to south, it's 180 miles, 375,000 full-time residents. And the official language is English, so it makes it real easy to deal with the locals. It's very expensive. Gas is $12 to $13 a gallon.
Wow.
And American money is 2 for 1. So, if it's $13 and we're only paying $6.50 a gallon, sounds like California. Or Washington,
and
Washington
Western Australia.
State, one of the
In
two.
Western Australia, that's for sure. Yeah.
So we were on a 3-hour conference call today, and I think everything is nailed down. We have the permission. That's what we were waiting for, is the official Belize government saying, okay, it's yours. Now what are you going to do with it? So that's our next step is to we have the money is going to be made available. The production costs are going to be made available.
Excellent.
And I'm going to be sitting down with a couple of different people between now and the middle of January, where I'm going to try to get a couple $100,000 from some of them or both of them.
You need a bit more than a GoFundMe, yeah?
Yeah. But the thing about this, it turns out, and I didn't know this beforehand, but it came back that Ichbin Ka is the largest complex in all of Belize. It has the tallest pyramid in all of Belize, and it's one. If you don't know about what we're talking about, the complex outside of this one small village. The small village was isolated from the real world until 2012. That's when they finally cut about a 5 or 6 mile road through the jungle to connect them to the rest of the world. But in the 1980s, when they were doing the initial surveying of all the Mayan structures within the country of Belize, they did a radar map of the entire country, and they were able to identify all the all the various anomalies and the sites and whatever. And the largest site happens to be Uchbin Ka, but because it was totally isolated from the real world, they, rather than the government being 100% in control of the destiny of who's going to do the excavation, they turned it over to the village elders. And I gave on our first full day this last April at a Lupatan complex, I tripped and fell in a pile of rubble after about a 1.5 mile walk through the pyramid complex, and I only had about 10 feet to go until I was on a regular sidewalk, and I slipped and fell and fell into a rubble of debris. Got a slash below my knee and a puncture wound just above my ankle, and it was raining to beat hell. So I gave a lot of blood and DNA to the Mayan gods, and in return, they said, we're going to direct you towards a place that is not controlled by the government. It is the largest complex in Belize, if not all of Nicaragua as well, and it's yours for the taking. All you have to do is convince the village elders that we're the ones that are going to do the job. And we've done that part. They're also going to give us, I think, about 10 acres on a river with a waterfall, so we can build a dozen, or I think we had looked at 17 casitas or cabins or whatever you want to call them. And so we don't have to worry about buying the land. It's being given to us. The village is about 780 people. They're also subsistence farmers. They don't have electricity. They don't have running water. If they can wash their clothes, they go down to the creek or the river and do it there. you don't have running water in your house. There is a well for the community, but most of them they'll drink river water, which their bodies are used to. I know when I got the slash and the puncture wound, every doctor that I saw or medical person I saw, under no circumstances do you go in the water, because you're going to come back in 6 months. You'll be swamp creature. Something will come in and take over my body, and I didn't really want that.
Ooh.
So, but that is is pretty much nailed down as of today. So I'm really, really pleased.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I know a
Congratulations.
bunch of kids that would volunteer to help clean it up if you need.
Yeah. Well, the thing about now, I was there for 2 weeks in April, and we were there for a week this last the 13th through the 17th of November, and I've never been bitten by anything, bug wise. John, a gentleman named John, who owns 7,000 acres outside of Punta Gorda, and it's all jungle. And he's in the process of putting in a mahogany orchard, or he's going to grow mahogany to sell. And that's their native. That's where it came from. And I asked John. I said, how many critters have you encountered since you've been down here for the last almost 40 years? And he said, I've never seen a jaguar. He said, I've seen 3 snakes in 40 years, and this is tramping through the jungle, and a few bugs here and there, and that's about it. And Dewey pyramids are power plants, not tombs, as reported. They do produce energy. We actually threw a triplex meter on some stones, and it went so we're not sure exactly why it did what it did, and not every stone that we tested gave a reading, but no one's gone in there and done any testing. Is this a transmitter or receiving site? How do they get the information out to the public? Or you're looking at
The chat, people just shoving stuff up there, Jim.
Yeah.
I don't want to interfere you while you're talking. I just let them know they're being acknowledged. That's all.
So that's where I'm at, and I'll give it back to Terry.
Well, moi. Anyway, actually, I wanted to talk about. Start off the conversation. Well, that was wonderful, James. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's I wish I was going with you. I really do. I mean, yeah.
How do we invest?
I could really do that. What would you say, Gerald?
Yeah.
I said, how do we invest? I want to buy some shares into this project.
Well, it's going to be exciting. We figure our budget for everything we want to do is going to cost us. The total bill will be $3.5 to $5 million to do everything we want to do. And I think once we get the first season of the excavation of Uchben Ka, then it will probably be self-funded.
I gather there'll be a documentary following it to help fund it, I suppose.
Yeah, we're gonna do a documentary. Are we going to do 9, 12? How many? We're not sure. It depends on the availability of good video. Now, Michael Roser, and when we were there in April, he had a high definition video camera, and he did a lot of shooting. So that would be sort of like B roll. And then the film crew that's going to be coming in, they're going to use, I think, 5K or 6K cameras, so it's really, really high resolution. We're going to go in there with a LiDAR drone, and then an aerial radar mapping, We'll have ground penetrating radar. Now there's speculation that there are tunnels underneath the pyramids. That's a recent discovery. Well, being that we're one of the, that particular site that we're involved in is the largest site in all of Belize. They believe the oldest site in all of Belize, and it has the tallest pyramids in all of Belize. And how I was left just to sit there in the jungle and collect overburden is beyond me. But like I said, it wasn't until 2012 that there was actual road cut into the village. So, and there's like 780 or so. There's Alfredo, who's the mayor. I said we have 173 healthy, able-bodied males that are ready to start working today. So, and I asked him. I said, okay. I asked Juan. I said, oh no, Jose. That's what it is. I said, how long do you think it'll take to clear the mountain or clear this particular pyramid? He said, 2.5, 3 weeks, and it'll be clear. I mean, it'll be clear all the way down to the base. Now we have to cut a road in. There's what they call a trail, if you want to call it that.
Now, Jim, this is different than the pyramid with all the snakes. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. That's the one we'll throw Terry into if we can.
Well, I thought you said that was the one that you really wanted to do.
No, I don't like snakes. Yeah, I've been married to a couple, so.
Oh my!
But not the sweet woman I'm married to today. She's really special. So,
And
not short school bus special either. So,
hey Jim.
Yeah.
What was that, Gerald?
When you guys make your discoveries, who has the rights to all the information and all the artifacts that you might find?
The village owns the village and the wait a second. The village has full control of the artifacts. If they're going to sell them, then yeah, thanks. If they're going to sell them, then we get a percentage of whatever they're going to sell for. If they're going to be out on loan, there's a fee that has to be paid, and depending what the item is. Now, the famous crystal skull that was discovered, I believe, in 1923 on one of the first geological adventures there at Louboutin. That's where they found the crystal skull, the big one. I mean, it's a full-size skull made of some of the hardest, most difficult crystal to work with. It says, you start rubbing it the wrong way, it'll shatter. And this thing is...
I believe it's flawless.
Yes, that's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
So, and that was found as the crow flies, not more than 5 miles away.
And let's see if the universities tell us that was done with a brass hammer and chisel.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I have been following you with this project this year, and talking to Jared and the ideas and the content that you're going to be able to produce, like you said, getting good footage. I know that you guys are going to benefit the village and the people around that are going to benefit from this monetarily in some way, because I'm expecting you guys to be that last turn of the spade that uncovers something completely new, throws a ginormous, an entire snap-on truck of wrenches into their paradigm and causes them to go run and scramble and try to fix what they've been telling us about history, particularly in Mesoamerica. I think that there's, when we finally get through all of the overgrowth and the hidden stuff down in Mesoamerica, and this is in my opinion, it's going to completely change history. It's going to completely change all of the paradigms that these educators have been schooling our young ones with. And because all of that is, majority of it is wrong. A lot of it is misguided, and a good percentage of it is intentional. They've intentionally kept knowledge and manipulated and mangled the knowledge.
Well, I agree 100%.
So anyway,
sure.
I'm just championing you guys being the ones. I can say, hey, there'll be the headlines. Archaeological group of different people found discoveries that completely changed the timeline and our understanding of history. Being attacked by fellow archaeologists or other scientists, or scientists come up and say, oh, these guys are full of shit. And I'm going to be sitting there going, ha, ha, they're the ones that are fixing you. And you're just jealous that they found it and you didn't.
Yeah.
But yet, by satellite readings, they reckon we've only found about 5 or 6% of these pyramids. They reckon there's a lot more.
Oh,
Well, yeah, Nicaragua was a couple of years ago. They did a LiDAR scan of 800 square mile part of a very dense jungle that had nothing. It's in fairly close proximity of one of their major sites, and they wanted to see if there was any roads in there that they used. And it turns out not only did they find roads, they found 60,000 structures.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that's why the estimates of the total population of that part of Mesoamerica is between 10 and 20 million. And, I asked, well, what the hell happened to them? And the local archaeologists at the various sites, said, well, the two biggest things is when Cortez arrived, he brought in all the European illnesses and bugs that they had no immunity for, and it just ravaged the population. And then we had the fact that Mayans in general are vicious people, at least the ones back in the day, that if you upset or pissed off a local Mayan from a different village and he felt that he needed retribution, he'll come and kill you and your entire extended family, plus your dogs, cats, chickens, and goats. So, I mean, you only have to do that a few thousand times until you start really weeding out the population. And the other thing, because they weren't very good farmers, they literally killed the soil. They referred to the jungles of Central America as a green, wet desert, because the only thing that can really grow there with any quality are native plants and weeds and stuff. Food products, like corn or maize or soybeans or whatever, they have drawn out literally all of the nutrients out of the soil over the last 2,000 years. So flat areas where you normally would grow large crops, those don't work. They're actually growing them on sides of pyramids where they have a lot of overburden, which is good composted dirt. And we plan on taking all that composted dirt that's on the side of we call it Area G, and we're going to put it in a separate area. We're going to sift every bucket load of dirt that comes out of there is going to be sifted for artifacts, and all the good black soil will be eventually put into fields and dug into, put into the fields and then plowed to give them at least a decent starting place for good, for decent crops. So it's we have to bring water to the community. One of the important things that we want to do is I asked one of the guys there. I said, "Do you have a family?" He said, "Yeah, I have a wife and 4 kids and another one on the way." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "How old are the kids?" He said, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and one in the oven. They have to pay $700 a year to send their kids to public schools or to school. And what we want to do for the village, as far as generating revenue, what's going to benefit them the most is we would like to be in a position to pay the tuition for all the kids in the village.
Nice.
Wow.
That will
Very
relieve a
nice.
huge, I mean, $700 to someone who is a subsistence farmer
Education's a right. It's
is
you
a
know,
ton of money. And they,
you're
you know,
right.
they're all good at doing manual labor. They're all good at, I've never seen anybody work a machete or a chainsaw like these guys do. I mean, they're true craftsmen with the chainsaw. So we're going to take down all the big trees. That we'll have to get an arborist to identify what's what. But all the small stuff will be going out when we get the crew there. We're gonna start, like I say, start in 3 different locations and work our way down until it's eventually totally cleared. And we will have a film crew there the entire time.
I'm looking forward to watching you guys spill out the content as you go along because,
I'm going to drag your ass down there.
well,
Professor.
I'm a good grip. I know how to carry shit and take orders.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but the other thing, under no circumstances, even if it means me dropping out of the program, am I ever going to fly through Houston Intercontinental Airport again?
yeah, tell us how was Houston, Jim?
I put a post up right after I got back here 2
I
weeks
read
ago,
that.
and I said that even if it means going there, having to go in a flea and chigger infested Greyhound bus is preferable over flying in or through Houston Intercontinental. And I got pulled out and sent down into the lower bowels of Houston Intercontinental when they're checking me in, going through customs. And he said, what'd you eat last night? What'd you have for breakfast today? And I said, I had fish the night before, and I said, I had breakfast this morning. Well, do you have anything else? I said, yeah, I had pizza at the airport. Oh, what kind of pizza? I just kind of a strange question to ask. I said, pepperoni. He said, you said pepperoni? I said, yes. So it goes like this. Another guy comes and gets me. I go down and like 4 flights of real long escalators. We get down to the bottom. I got to take, I've already gone through security. So I take my shoes off, my belt. I had a knee brace, had to take that off. They swabbed my hands and everything else for explosives. I said, what in the hell gives? And he said, well, pork products are forbidden from coming into the country. And I mean, I'm just really getting pissed because I'm thinking I'm going to miss my airplane. I said, well, you want me to take a dump right here? I'll get rid of it. And he sort of looked at me like, I've heard enough of your protest. So I just gritted my teeth. And then I finally get up to the B terminal. It's shaped like a Y. I'm coming down at the foot. I look at the reader board and it says flight 6060 Houston to Phoenix, gate B86. So this is as far as way as you can get from where I'm at. And I go all the way down to that area and I see gates B83, 84, 85, 87, 88. I said, where's gate B? I mean, B86. Oh, we don't have one. What? So I'm talking to the lady at the gate, one of the gates, and they say, okay, where's 6060 flying out of? And she punches in, oh, that's B73. That's in the other part of the terminal. So I walk all the way back out and go all the way back, get there. I'm there about an hour, and it's up in the board on the gate, and all of a sudden it's gone. So I go up to the lady at the gate and I say, all right, where's 6060? Oh, it's over at B88. I said, you're shitting me, right? And he said, no, at B88. So I dragged my ass all the way back, all the way in. And the same ladies there, I asked, where is flight 6060? And he said, I understand it's here. I said, yeah, but it hasn't taken off from where it's at. So it's at least 3 hours late. Well, it turns out it was 5.5 hours late.
Oh my gosh.
Good God.
Hey, has anybody ever been to Singapore airport?
Yes.
Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the terminals are so far apart, you have to catch what they call the Sky Train. It's like a monorail. It's huge.
I had
Right.
to take 3 trains to get to my gate when I landed there. I arrived on the E terminal, no, the A terminal. I'm going to D terminal to fly to Belize. So I see the signs. I go there. It says gates A through D, or terminals A through D. I get in there. It stops at C. The doors are closing. It's heading in the other direction. I said, what the hell? So I rode to the other direction, and I come back, and I get off at C. And there's someone from the airport right there. I says, I need to go to D terminal. Oh, you have to take this one back to A, and then cross over, and then take whatever else one it is from A to. I absolutely hate, and hate's a powerful word. I will do anything I can to avoid going through Houston.
You ought to go on Yelp and give them a review, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, I tried finding the official Houston Intercontinental Airport official website so I can tell them what they could do to their airport. I know it won't fit, but I was going to tell them anyway. So, and I've been in every major airport and even a lot of minor airports in North America. I traveled for almost 40 years by air. And this is the worst airport I've ever been in. Now, I haven't been in third world countries, in Central America or South America, other than Belize. All the time I've been down in Central and South America, I was in a C-130. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had a couple of most of my flights when I flew all over the planet back in the 90s, I was flying business class most of the time in 4- and 5-star hotels. And when you said, have you been to Singapore's airport? I've been there, but it immediately reminded me of the flight after that, which is going into Hong Kong. And that airport, that's one of those ones where they've got a very short distance.
The old airport.
Yeah. You have to go in, and they tell you, we're going to drop. Just hold on to your popcorn and your Cokes and your seats as we get ready, to go into land. And it's a belly rattler for sure.
Well, one of my elementary school teachers was on a flight. It was a 747 coming into the old Hong Kong airport, and she ended up in the water. The airplane ended up in the water. It didn't stop at the end of the runway; it kept on going. So
yeah, back in late '74, I took a Air India flight from Heathrow back to Australia. But by the time we actually got to Mumbai, what used to be called Bombay back those days, we actually circled the airport for about 25 minutes, and all you could hear was the undercarriage going, having problems. You couldn't get the bus. This is on a jumbo, right? Anyway, the captain says, "Oh, there's a slight delay. We just have to dump some fuel and blah blah blah. We'll be landing very shortly." And a friend of I met on the plane, his name was Bazza or something like that. Anyway, he turned around and said, "Dumping fuel? What, are we going to crash or what?" Apparently they weren't sure if the undercarriage locked into place or not once they got it open. Well, you should know something about that, Jim. Anyway, we landed at Bombay Airport. We should have been only there for about, I think it was about an hour. We should have been there. But they said, "Oh, we're going to stay overnight. They're doing maintenance on the plane." Well, don't they have another plane to take us out? No. So they put us in this hotel. Now, I don't know if you've been to Bombay or Mumbai. You've got this beautiful airport, and I'm talking, it's gorgeous. Everything's made out of polished marble, and it's like decadent at its best. But around the airport, it's slums, right up to the runway. And I'm talking about shanty towns, tin sheds, old wicker type buildings, and it's unbelievable. And when you're like just walking through the place, somebody weighing on you like you're royalty, it's like you go to the toilet and honestly you have to tell the guy to go and get lost. I can hold it myself. Go away. It's crazy. I mean, really great. Anyway, we end up these two guys I was with, they're actually they work for the Australian Embassy on contracting for promotion for tourism for Australia. And apparently they says, we're going to catch another flight. Do you want to come and join us? So we end up going to Bangkok for flight to Bangkok. And we end up staying there for 3 months.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, well, the city didn't get me, put it that way. Yeah, it's crazy. We didn't trust the airline. We didn't trust Air India anymore. Honestly, it was scary.
I don't trust any of the airlines anymore.
No, I don't.
I mean,
Not at all.
They're about as reliable as politicians.
I think they're remote controlled too. I feel like they're remote controlled. I just remember the good old days when I was a little girl and me and my sister had matching little outfits and my mom walked us to the gate and just shoved us off to the grandparents for like a month. And then they sent us back. Like we could just go gate to gate. And then I used to love to travel, like Burbank Airport's easy. But before, when kids came, well, I should say we had a horror ride 2 years ago coming out of Florida to come back to LA. I had a 4.5-hour panic attack. It was doing the crazy dips, really bad turbulence. Someone threw up. Everything's all over the place, but no one came over the loudspeaker. Like there was, and the two stewards were walking back and forth very robotically. Drinks as people are like, and I'm like, these people aren't even present. And then the only time we ever heard him was when we we're about to land into Los Angeles International. And I was just like, the movie Airplane was sweat pouring out of me. And I'm just like, we drove cross country last year. We're like, we're done.
If it's within 1,000 miles, I'll drive.
Yeah, we covered 16 states. We were like,
well,
do it again.
My last road trip when I went to visit the professor, I went 5,260 miles in 3 weeks. And my car got 24.5 miles to the gallon. And my average speed was 67.4 miles an hour for the entire trip.
He's got a dream machine, believe me.
Yeah.
When I was waiting for him to arrive, I started looking up and down the street, and I kept seeing this gray-haired guy driving this vet going up and back and around the street. And I'm going.
I only went up there once and came back, and then realized you were at the other side of the street. I have a 185 mile an hour Corvette.
Oh wow!
That's
okay.
And I have 102,400 miles on it as of today.
Wow!
I drive it. It's 2010. I drive it everywhere, and I love it.
As fast as you drive, Jim, you might want to trade that in for a Hellcat.
No, I get 24 miles to the gallon with this thing. I got a buddy of mine who has a Hellcat in Hawaii, and he said if I take it easy in town, I get about 12, but if I crank it up to the 715 or 718 horsepower, I get about 6. And gas is just too damn expensive. And no, I mean, if this Belize thing comes to fruition, I'm going to get a C8 Z06, and it's 1,100. Well, I guess the ZR1's going to be 1,100 horsepower. And Susie B, how's it going?
Yeah, g'day. Welcome, Susie.
Well, I got to tell you that, anything that gets me where I'm going in a reasonable amount of time in one piece, both directions, I've come to have more appreciation for.
Yeah.
Being able to have something that's really nice and has all of the accoutrements you might want in whatever 4-wheel excursion you're going to go on. I think Heidi was kind of alluding this when I think you said that after your trip, you said, that's it, that's enough. Don't want to go out there and basically do that. I've never, well, not never, about 30 years or so ago is when I stopped the whole holiday travel thing.
Mhm.
I'm not going to jump on a plane, and I may drive somewhere, but even that's last resort. But going out and getting amongst the masses that are out there trying to mingle for the merry, it's like, yeah, there's too many of them that are sketchy. A lot of them don't look like they're very trustworthy. And there seems to be more and more of this just congestion and chaos that happens when you try to go anywhere and do anything. So I'm a big bunker fan. I like my my man cave and my domicile that I've decked out so that being in it is enjoyable. It's not something where I feel like I'm enclosed.
It's a comfortable place.
Yeah, I mean, and so since it's just me and my pups, we all know how to navigate each other through the day and all of that. But I really think that, like my daughters live in Atlanta, and I just had my third. I didn't have my youngest daughter had her first child, so I have my third grandchild, and I really want to get out there and see him. So they said, "Well, we know you don't travel during the holidays, Dad. When can you get out here?" And I said, "Well, you've got Rowan, my newest grandchild. Her birthday's the beginning of April, and then my two grandsons are 4 days apart in May." It's like, well, maybe I'll go in the middle and catch all of them. But that also has the advantage for me that time period, April into May, is not going to be a lot of traveling going on, or at least there shouldn't be. And I've just really gotten masses adverse. I just don't want to be around large crowds of people.
Mhm.
They give me the willies.
Yes,
And this is from somebody who just absolutely loved and went to California Jam in 1974. And it was, I think, 300,000 of us out there.
Wow.
But yeah, and I think for the most part, it's because of the crap that's going on out in society. We have a lot of adverse, stinky, piles of fecal matter everywhere, figuratively and literally. And we're seeing more and more of it coming out of our schooling system.
Well, we've got an educator. He can tell you more about that. I'm sure.
Well, I thought I would, toss that in because it's been one of my.
But let's get it right.
grabs.
As Professor would say, you'll throw the turd on the table.
Toss it on the table and here, Heidi, pick it up by the clean end.
Yeah, okay, Heidi. What have you got to say about this? Now, what do you got to say about
introduction in that?
How about that?
Sounds like a science experiment. We can learn from it.
Right?
What do you think about the system, Heidi?
I think the old system and the Rockefeller system is collapsing and it needs to collapse. But I think what's happening is there's probably these generations now that are moving on up that are not only awakening, but were raised by like the first preppers and, doomsday's coming. And I don't know, these kids are starting to grow up because these parents that find us at our little learning center know there's something else. They're ready to try something different. And there's a lot of them. Like I'm having conversations with 8 and 9-year-olds, and you were talking earlier about history, and they just start conversations about the moon. It's not a moon, that's a satellite. And then there's a 9-year-old going, yeah, but did you hear who's the cameraman? Like they're talking back and forth. And my assistant and I are just like, well, at least they're thinking things through. But they're aware that what's being told out here is a lot of show. And I think it's coming from their parents. A lot of their parents are like, this isn't right. We need to change the system. But I think they're also just coming in bright lights. They're just coming in ready to flip the whole system themselves. These kids are, when they can be, I'm treading scary waters here, but you can see how Big Pharma gets involved and a lot of the lights go out. And I think that goes hand in hand. So some of these kids I'm fortunate enough to work with that have not been maimed by Big Pharma, or they either are looking for alternatives to clean themselves up from Big Pharma, but there's a lot of conversation that happens with kids today that I don't think happen in the regular school system. And for some that aren't aware, I'm at an enrichment learning center. It's a lot of homeschools. We meet a couple days a week. We follow Rudolf Steiner's curriculum. It's very Waldorfy, but it's all about energy and the mind, body, will, and frequencies, and like the good stuff, the juicy stuff, and
all
the
of
academia.
the sentient self-awareness stuff that they are
Mhm,
is completely suppressed in the current model.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
you
we're getting
also
more. They're all
and
coming.
also too, you're told what to learn, and if you kind of go
No,
outside
you're told
outside the
what to
curriculum,
you're told what to remember. They're
yeah,
teaching you not to think.
that's exactly right. You know, you
Yeah.
question something, they say, hey, you're not here to question it. You're here to because you're learning exactly the same thing the guy next to you is learning, and somebody else. I mean, you're not really expanding your mind at
Well,
all.
it's designed like a manufacturing uh, process production line.
You're just another brick in the wall.
You get a stamp of, a silo of information that is then you, as long as you regurgitate what you were told what to think, because they completely removed how to think and they
Mhm,
replace it with what to think. So they've
mhm,
given you the information they want you to retain and regurgitate so that you can
mhm.
be registered with some stamped piece of paper. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
really interested, Heidi.
It
What is a
reminds me of that old movie, Obey. You know,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
well,
Yeah, I don't
exactly.
see them.
That's exactly right. Heidi, what's the curriculum like at where you teach?
Steiner is so aware of the developing child. Like it's very like I'm happen to be with third graders, and we loop the kids. I'm with the third graders. I'll be with them till eighth grade, the same kids. So that's a very Steiner thing too. The educator
Mhm.
grows with the child. But they go through the developmental stages. So when they're doing the 9-year change, it's a very big developmental year, and that's what this grade is. It's when the child first understands, like they separate themselves. They're like, whoa, I'm a part of this universe. Like it's not just my universe, like a little kid or
Mm.
fairies. They're aware of their mortality. They become aware of their parents' mortality. It gets a little morbid. So we introduce a bunch of new skills. That's when I was telling you last time about the strings instruments come out. They learn musical notes. We do house building. We've already built a few structures. There's a lot of cooking. That's how we do our math, a lot of
choices.
art, a lot of
Wow.
watercolor. And it's like
Very nice.
showing their skills. And then you see where the children are shining and you lift them up. So, what one is not really, I could take or leave this, but he loves the mud. Cool, I got a job for you over there. And that's my job as the educator to guide. And
Mm.
that's very Steiner. I
Mhm.
think. And they're super critical thinkers. My daughter's in the middle school there, and everything's about teamwork and counsel and talking things through. And yeah, last year for medieval studies, they built their own catapult and like
All right.
weapons, and but they built them so they could figure out the science and mechanics behind it. It's very hands-on, but it's all about what is appropriate for the developing child. That's why Steiner really poo-pooed Farmer, but also, well, they didn't know about the media stuff, but today's educators are like, please refrain as long as you can from introducing media. And I just did a little episode with a friend about VR because even last year when I assisted in the fourth grade, we were doing an animal block and they advised me not to bring in my turtles. I had these box-eared sliders and stuff. Like, no, let them, they have to visualize first. They need to figure out how it moves and all it is. And when the block's over, bring them in. And it didn't sit with me for a while. And then I got it because I saw their reaction and I saw how they handled the lesson block, how in depth they thought of everything. And they didn't just look at something and copy it. They were thinking of all these, how did he breathe, sleep, feel, touch, all these things. And then they met one and they're like, oh, wow, wasn't anything like I thought, or yeah, oh yeah, it totally was. It's fascinating. It's actually quite fascinating.
It sounds
We
like a
stand back
very
a lot.
Well, they just
it sounds like a very interpersonal, individual, intentional interaction.
Very much so. Mhm.
So and what an incredible experience it must be for you to begin that stage with a child, with an individual, and be with it and be a part of its development. because
Yeah, special.
you're seeing all of the manifestation of the individual is one of the things that's completely suppressed. You can't do it in the boxes that everybody is put in and has been put in our schooling system. It's not really an education system, in my opinion. It's schooling, and it's been mangled and manipulated for at least 40 years, if not more. And it's gotten seriously tweaked in a
Oh
really
yeah.
bad
It's money
way.
laundering too. It's
Oh,
just
it's
money
just
laundering. Make them test so they can get the money, but then you never see it in the school.
well,
Go ahead.
one of the arguments that I put out when this whole student loan thing became, a big meme in the social discourse was that, well, no, let me hold on a second. Let me understand something. You paid for something that was supposed to have a value at the end, that you were supposed to be able to go do something with. And essentially in the business world, it had an ROI, return on investment, right? But it didn't work out for whatever reason. And now you want that forgiven. It's like, well, that's one of the things that they don't teach in the current school system is any economic self management skills, doing a checkbook, doing your bank balance, taking care of all the things that you need to do in order to be an individual and have some kind of sustainability in the social environment that you interact in. And they don't teach any of that. That is completely, it's like, no, you've got to be this, that, or the other. And I thought, well, first of all, the illogical, it would be a crime if we paid for it for you, because it would be a lesson you wouldn't learn.
Yeah.
And number two, all of these institutions are apparently selling some questionable product. And if the product doesn't deliver on what the people's paid for, what they told they were buying, where's the institution's responsibility in that? Oh, and by the way, the Harvards, the Yales, and so forth have endowments in the tens of billions of dollars. They could easily give back and help some of these poor people that were lied to and given a product that wasn't worth the paper it was stamped with. Pun intended. That's my rant.
It's a good
You know,
one.
if you don't mind me saying, in Australia here, what the education system for the first 3 years, you get what they call Oz Study. That pays for your tuition, and it also gives you a bit of pocket money. Most students go out and get themselves a little cafe job, something, serving tables and stuff. But if you're going for a doctorate and it's going to go on to say 4, 5, and 6 years, then you go on to what they call student loans, and in the interest rates, there's no interest. There's no real kind of interest rates whatsoever. But the thing is, you can get yourself, by the time you've got your doctorate degree, you could be something like about $180,000 in debt. Now, the thing is about this, you don't have to pay it back if you earn under, I think it's something like $90,000 a year or something around that figure. But if you earn over that, you've got to, I think it's you don't actually pay back the loan as like in, or you pay a monthly payment. Your tax is 3% higher. So instead of paying the average tax, you pay 3% on top of your normal tax.
Well, to me, that's a system. That's a symptom of a system that is broken. And in my opinion, and I've been yammering on about this for quite a while now, at least the last 3 or 4 years I've been doing shows. What we have right now, and people are focused on the collateral damage, the symptoms, and all of the stuff that happens when this main reason occurs, which is they're all broken. All of the institutions and the systems, the infrastructure, the models, and the way these systems are designed, they're all broke. They don't work anymore. Name anything: sciences, academia, media, the institutions of whatever, government, our finances, our judicial and legal system. Everything is showing massive amounts of cracks and fissures, and a lot of them have started to crumble with big chunks falling all around them. And that all of the chaos that causes is what we're seeing and dealing with in our reality. All of the different memes, the wars, the political this, and the BS and social that. It's just full of shit. There's nothing but crap all around. So why is that? Well, in my observation and analysis, it's all of the institutions are broken. They're all falling apart. They're about to be replaced, in some cases bulldozed, both literally and figuratively. And the things that we're talking about, like the archaeological work that Jim's doing, the educational work that Heidi's doing, what's going to come out of that will be the really cool stuff that we deal with after we deal with the destruction of the old. The old it's run its course. It is done. And it's the pain of demolition and things dissolving, and decomposing, because all of these systems but they're all fighting to stay. I'm hanging on. I'm going to, I'm like an animal in a corner, and I know that my gig's up, but I still got some of me in me, and I'm going to let it out. And so I think that what we're going to see on the other side is some of the most amazing, wonderful it'll be disruptive transformation, but the innovation and the change that we will see within and without ourselves, the new systems that will come up to support the ability for people to just get along together. All of that technology is here, and it's about to be unfolded and unloaded on humanity.
And how long is this going to take before we get to that? That's the thing.
Oh, it's going to be a process, and it'll take time. But I think we are at the wave has already started. We're on the back end of the wave, and we're not near the crest yet. The crest is going to happen, and then we're going to float in after the crest. But that crest is coming down. It's going to wipe out a whole bunch of things, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be painful. It's going to be very emotionally and intense, because a lot of people won't. It's like in the Matrix when Morpheus said to Neo, you have to remember that when you go in there, some of them don't want to be unplugged. They are inured, they are dependent, and they would prefer to stay plugged, even to fighting to the death to stay plugged. So the awakening of the knowledge apocalypse, which is the broader term that I use for this, which means the knowledge unveiling, not apocalypse in the way that it's typically used. It's an unveiling. It's an awareness. It's an opening. It's a transparency of knowledge. And that is going to change. That's going to be the catalyst for this next change. So I think within the next 2 to 3 years, if not sooner, we're going to see the crest go over the edge.
I have two comments on education, and I'm a victim of one of them. And that's what teachers get. You're not going to tell my teachers, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong, even if you are. But two things. My son was born in 1976. So he's a bicentennial baby. He was in 7th grade at the time. And I wanted to be a history teacher. I wanted to teach U.S. history. I absolutely love it. A lot of it has drifted out of my brain over the last 70 some odd years, but I still love history. And there was something in the news about the original 13 colonies, and my son was there. These are all kids that are getting good grades and smart, and they like school. I said, how many of you here can name the original 13 colonies? It was like I was asking him for the, prove Einstein's theory of relativity. I mean, they had this blank stare. I said, can you name one? And nothing. I said, have you ever, you haven't heard of Magellan, LaSalle, Sir Francis Drake? And I got to Lewis and Clark. Was it Lewis and Clark? Yeah, I think it was Lewis and Clark. And they said, well, isn't that a British rock group? And I said, it was one's Huey Lewis and the other one, I can't remember the other one I had, but
Dave Clark 5.
Yeah, yeah. I said, no, you were half right. So I contacted the director of curriculum at Eden Prairie Schools, which is one of the best school systems in the state of Minnesota. She is a 1968 Berkeley grad. I don't think her body has ever seen a razor or any type of makeup, long, stringy, ugly gray hair. And I go in there, and I'm not a politically correct guy. And I told her that my dilemma, and I said, you're not teaching our kids history. Well, history is not important. I said, what? I said, every country in the world is telling their students what a wonderful country they are. I don't care if you're in Palestine, in Gaza, or if you're Beverly Hills. I mean, they're going to tell you that.
Even I know about Drake and the Golden Hind and tobacco and
yeah. She said, well, it's not important. I said, this is the greatest country in the world. I said, well, to say that would make every other country second rate. He says, that's how you explain 20 million illegal aliens in this country. And she's getting really frustrated. And I kept calling her sweetheart.
Oh, you get that too, Jim?
Oh, every time I call her dear. I mean, I was older than she was, so she has to respect me. I'm an elderly person. I wasn't then, but back then. And she finally says, Mr. Goodall says, our conversation is over. You have a nice day. And I walked out. And I know the principal at Eden Prairie High School. That's where my son was going to be going after 8th grade. Hang on a second. So I called him up and I said, I got a question. Can I come to the school and go to the library and take a look at the history book that the director of curriculum says that they teach? They teach our kids about U.S. history. It was probably written by what's Jane Fonda's former husband, Hardy or
Ted
something
Turner?
like that. Pardon?
Ted Turner?
No, the one before that.
All before that.
It's a real lefty.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and so I go through it. There is no mention of the Japanese attacking the United States on December 7th.
Huh.
None. I looked at the chapter on Vietnam. It looked like it was written by Jane Fonda. I mean, when I got home from school, I told my wife, my first one, I said, we got to find something different for our son James, because he's not going to get an education in Eden Prairie schools. So as it turns out, Benilde St. Margaret's, which is a good Catholic school, private school, they had just kicked out not the brothers. What do you call them? They're not priests, but they were living in a dorm like thing. So I just got distracted.
Yes.
So we go in there and there's room. I mean, you have to be a legacy to get your kid in there. And it turns out, like I said, there was nobody in 6th and 7th grade. So at 8th grade, he went to Benilde St. Margaret's, and it was the best decision I ever made. The president of Benilde St. Margaret's School Association, whatever the correct term was, he wasn't principal, but he was the head guy there. He said 30% of our students are not Christian, and they do a number of things they don't do in public schools. Oh, you have to have, your hair has to be the color found in nature on human beings. Not, you have a dress code. You have an attendance code. You have, you can't be disrespectful. You're here because we're allowing you to be here. And it wasn't cheap. said, and if you don't want to play the game, then you can go back to public schools. My stepdaughter, who I call the brat, Molly, I just got married to the fraud. That was her mother. Moved her from Seattle to Minneapolis. Yeah, you laughed, Terry. Yeah, she took me for over. She took me from, she took me to the cleaners, but that's all right. I survived.
Not all women are like that. Not all women are like that.
No,
I can honestly say that. I mean, I've been married to one of those too. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I've found a number of them in my life. So yeah, I understand that.
And don't forget, all men are bees. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Well, just to clarify that, I just found out. I read this study, and they were trying to figure out what were the biggest. It had a whole bunch of different categories about relationships, and when I got to marriage, the question was, what is the leading cause of divorce?
Marriage.
And the top one was marriage. And it's like, well, yeah, because if you don't have a divorce if you haven't gotten married, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that I think, and I'd be interested in your take on this, Heidi, since you represent the estrogen-based carbon unit.
Oh.
Little I have left.
So my observation is this, that men, and on the topic of marriage and it being the leading cause of divorce, men get into a relationship with a woman hoping she won't change.
Yep.
I see where this is going.
Women get into a relationship with a man hoping they can change him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I
No.
feel yeah. I get it. I was married twice. My first hubby, I rushed him. I hit an age where I'm like, well, I'm supposed to do this now. And 9/11 hit, and I'm like, let's just do it. I'm done chasing my dreams. Just settle down, have a family. Give me the ring, 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 ring. And I got the ring, and I'm like, oh shit, like it's not feeling what I thought it would. And I never backed out. I was like, oh, but too many people. I'm going to hurt too many people's feelings. And then like even the honeymoon, I was like, 6 months later, we're in therapy, and within a year, I had my own place. But I gave the rings back. I'm like, I'm sorry, I did that. Then my kid's dad is kind of the same thing. He's begged me never change when I was pregnant. Just don't change. And I told him, I'm like, please stay out of the clubs, change. And it never worked. I had kids, and I was like, Mama Bear, like, of course I'm going to change. Mm-hmm. And so now I have a gentle giant on my side. He lets me be me, and we just balance each other out.
I'll ask each and every one of you a question. Should marriage certificates be like driver's license, renewable every 5 years?
No, they should charge $100,000 for a marriage certificate, and divorces are free.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
I hadn't thought about that. I've always thought that the entire idea and concept of the marriage union and that institution is really religious based. And when I started looking at, why do I have to be registered with the state and federal officials that I've done this? What is it? What do they got to do with it? Right? What's their responsibility? So I've been married twice. First one was that practice kind of thing. I was 21. She was 19. We went to Canada, lived on a homestead. She wasn't ready to, shuck corn and chase rabbits every day. And so we had to go back, and she went home. And in California, this is back in 79. And in California, I don't know if they still have it, but they had what they called a summary dissolution, which if you were married for 5 years or less, and there was no asset claims or anything that had to be divided, no children, all that kind of stuff, then you went to court for like $100 and they excommunicated your original marriage. So that
happened to us. Mm-hmm.
And so I went, okay, well, that worked out from our first one.
Well, we've opened up a can of worms here. A lot of people are making comments about this.
So anyway, I'll just finish. I'm going to throw this. I'll throw this little turd on the table and see what you guys think of this.
Here we go.
So after I went through my second marriage and went through all that stuff, and then had some significant long-term relationships, I started thinking about what is this whole concept of relationship. and this whole marriage thing. I already had the problems with why does the government have to authenticate me in my relationship with someone else? That's if you can't have a relationship with someone that you trust and you need to, kind of put guardrails up for each other in the form of some legal document, then you should probably do it with with the least amount of bullshit and friction, and the easiest way to both enjoy as well as separate. Everybody has to realize that not everybody stays the same, and this is where men are screwed up in that equation that I mentioned earlier. We say, "Oh, she doesn't change." Well, that's not going to happen. Change is the only constant. So that is going to happen. It's going to happen to both of you. So you have to go into at least knowing that you're going to take whatever time and endure as much as each can for whatever you're committing to. So when I looked at that and I thought, well, isn't that like a lease?
Yeah.
Well, I get worried. I get worried when my wife. Sorry. I get worried when my wife tells me, I know it's good for you, and I'm saying to myself, well, if I don't listen, that sounds like a threat. Anyway, back to you, Robert. Sorry.
So when I thought about it, and I thought, well, if people went into leasing agreements to have a relationship that is going to consume and produce assets, then and you want to protect each other in that realm, because the current model is just hell-bent broke, and it's just causes there's much more of the consternation that goes into that separation of a relationship, because the government is involved, because the legal system is involved to the extent that it is. But in a lease, if you've ever leased anything, all that shit's laid out.
Yeah.
And you can do a term and you can say, we think this is going to work. If everything keeps going the way we both want and we're all happy, but we both need an exit clause. You need, the safety switch, because shit does happen. Period.
Yep, that's why marriage license should be like driver's licenses.
Well, and then
you better be nice, or I'm not going to renew my license.
So my point was that if marriages should be more like leases, then relationships should be more like rentals, which are both.
That's what prostitution is for.
Well, the truth of it is, if you really care, you're going to work on it, aren't you? I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah.
But I think complacency sets in too much, and we just take things for granted. And
JP in the chat just said people should get a license to reproduce. Now, I think that there's a lot of merit if you're going to lease a marriage and rent a relationship. You should get some kind of certification that what's about to happen. Now, that's not going to cover all this crap of the recreational sex unexpectedly turning into procreation, because that's what the majority of the whole abortion debate is about. It's not that there aren't very reasonable things and times where everybody should feel that's what you should do. But this unprotected recreational, oh shit, I didn't expect that to happen, to all of a sudden become my problem. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a system, and first of all, you took responsibility for it. Why do I have to share your responsibility? I didn't ask you to go do that. Yeah. I didn't even know you were going to do that. Hell, I didn't even know who you were. Yeah. But for some reason, there's this driving narrative that you have to. It's a societal problem, like mental health used to be back in the turn of the previous century. Yeah. The institutions, while they had all their problems, at least there was a place where
it's called Congress,
some kind of treatment. Because there's a lot of people out there that need that kind of attention.
Yeah.
But lease a marriage, rent a relationship, license for reproduction, 3 turds on the table, go.
Hey, Gerald, Gerald, so what's your take on all this, my friend? I mean, you've been very quiet there, taking it all in. I see it. I see the brain ticking over there, buddy.
I'm listening. I mean, I'm still in the Christianity, you know, you and your wife become one, and you know you're in it for the long haul, and sometimes that doesn't always work, but I feel that you need to have faith in your partner and your marriage, and
I agree.
if you're not 100% invested, then you're going to have all these problems like Robert and everybody talked about. I mean, it's just about how committed are you to your marriage.
I've been married 4 times. My first wife, we were married 20 years. We buried 2 children. And she's like my sister. She's like my sister today. And then I was 5 years ago, I was with the Antichrist. She was punishment for something evil I did in a past life. It was like doing 100 miles an hour in a car with no airbag, no seat belts, no collapsible steering wheel. And you go head on into a granite wall. That millisecond before the steering column is impaled in the middle of your chest is a real rush the first 20 or 30 times it happens. But after a while, it gets kind of boring. And then I had the joy of being married to the fraud. She took me for over $1 million and everything I had.
Been down that road.
Yeah, but that was my reward for putting up with the fraud. The fraud is that I met my current wife. She is as sweet as they come.
That's not what you told me. Well, when we talk about our wives, well, it's all nice stuff. I mean, my wife's bossy. He says his wife's a Nazi.
Yeah, well, she's 100%. She's 100% German, and then I also have another brown-eyed German in the house. She's kind of hairy. Her name is Scarlet, and she's a rescue German Shepherd dog. So, but no, Rosemary gives me freedom to go on the road. She doesn't throw a shit fit. I'm going to go spend Saturday night talking to a bunch of degenerates from the other side of the world, and whatever. She's my reward for putting up with all the crap. Now the fraud that took me, I married to her for 10 years. She was gorgeous. She was sexy. She was an actress. And she should have won an Oscar and an Emmy and a Tony for what she did to me over 10 years. But she's 5 foot tall. All my wives are 5 foot or shorter. And I saw her son got married last year on a beach in north of Seattle. And there was somebody out there with a video, took a video of it. And I'm trying to figure out who that white-haired, frizzy-haired woman with the big moo-moo was. Now, when I left her, she weighed about 105 pounds, maybe 110 on a bad day. Well, during COVID, I lost 60 pounds. And I'll be damned, she found it. She found all 60 pounds. And I didn't realize that was her until she walked in front of the video, and I went, and she probably weighs 170, 180 pounds now.
Yeah, karma's a way to come around and bite you on the
bum. It was
doesn't
wonderful. But my first wife and I talked to her at least once every other week, and I have for the 30 years we've been divorced. When Rosemary and I go to Minnesota, we stay with my ex.
That's wonderful.
When Shelley's come out here, she stayed with us. When Rosemary's former husband, she'd been married 3 times. Her former husband, Bill Cox, he's like my brother-in-law. And there's 4 Cox brothers and a sister. I mean, the 4 Cox brothers live in Seattle. There's Bill lives in Phoenix. Bill lives in Seattle, and then Sister Carol lives in Chicago. And I was at a function earlier this year. There's about 25 people there. I was the only person there who didn't have the last name of Cox, C-O-X, in my name anywhere. Everybody else did. And that's my family today. And they're all, I mean.
So you're saying it was a room full of cocks?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
You're a disgusting human being.
I'm just checking the name.
Okay.
No, you're just quoting.
Yeah. But my wife, Rosemary and I, we laugh a lot. I go out of my way. I try to be as good a husband as I can be. When I'm on the road, I call her in the morning, I call her midday, I call her in the afternoon, I call her in the evening, and I call her before I go to bed. Even when I was down in Belize, I'd call her. And I had a very, very dear friend who lives in Fallbrook. I lost track of him for 40 some odd years. And about 2016, I figured I was going to look for him. So I punched in his name and boom, there he came up. But there was no phone number. And Don and I always had a very special relationship because he would think something and I would say it and vice versa. So it was a Monday when I decided I was going to, search for, Don's name. His wife asked him and said, Don said, "Do you ever know what happened to your roommate and your good friend Jim Goodall?" I said, "No." I said, "I don't even know if he's alive." Well, that was on the Monday that I was thinking about it. And I went and I had a postcard. So I wrote out a postcard of this is, Donald J. Avery. We used to work for Pacific Telephone. I'm Jim Goodall. Call me. And I sent him a postcard. And Thursday of that same week, Meredith went down to the mailbox and came up and said, "You remember Monday when we were talking about Jim Goodall? You didn't know what happened to him?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "I have a postcard from him. It was mailed Monday, almost the exact same time that they were talking about it." But and the reason I bring this up, I went immediately went out, give him a visit. I was there 3 or 4 times, and I think it was in 2018. Meredith died unexpectedly. She had a heart attack. And I went out there to console Don. I spent a week with him. And he said, "Every time I've heard you call Rosemary, you tell her you love her." He said, "How many times a day how many times do you say I love you to your wife?" I said, "Every time I see her." And it's sincere. I mean, if I walk into the living room right now and she's watching the news, I'll go give her a kiss and tell her I love you and then come back in here. And he says, "I can't remember ever telling Meredith I love her."
Well, that's not going to work out real well.
Well, I tell
No,
I'm exactly the same. I tell my wife I love her every day. Every time I walk past her,
You have to. I mean,
I give her a pat in the backside, and I usually just bend over and kiss her on the forehead, and
yeah.
and give her shoulder a bit of a rub, and all the time. And now she gets in the habit; she just leans towards me.
And in our household, we're dealing with a challenge right now. Rosemary's had 3 bouts with cancer. In November of 18, they took out her right kidney, and it was, and the doctors at Mayo Clinic said, of all the cancers you can have, kidney cancer is almost guaranteed it's going to metastasize somewhere else.
Oh.
So fast forward to February 24th last year. She's 5:30 in the morning. She's walking, she's walking into the bedroom. All of a sudden I hear her scream. A bomb just went off on her head. And she had an aneurysm inside a kidney cancer tumor that had metastasized on the outer coating of her brain, the outer membrane of her brain. And it was right in the back. And if she had been driving a car, she'd have been dead. If I hadn't been right then and there, she would have died. And we've gotten that taken care of. And then this year in August, she had reoccurrence of cancer in same spot in her skull. So they didn't have to cut a new hole. They should have put a zip tie on it or something. They opened it up, put some radioactive seeds in there that will guarantee you that the cancer will not reoccur in that area. And it doesn't show up anywhere else. She had an MRI on her head and a full body CT scan. But she keeps telling me, "What are you going to do if I'm not here?" And I know I'm going to live over 100. That's in my head. I know that's going to happen. I said, as long as Scarlett's alive, she's our rescue German Shepherd, and she's a beautiful girl. I said, I'm going to live in this house. And that's my backyard right behind me. I mean, it's not much of a yard, but it's a nice yard. I said, but if Scarlett's not here and you're not here, I'm not going to stay in this house. It's too big. I'm going to bounce around. So I either go to one or two places. I'll either move in with my son back in Minnesota, and the thought of going back to Minnesota, as much as I love my son, I just want to puke. Or I'll go back to Hawaii. I can live there real cheap. I'm retired military, so I can shop at the commissary.
A lot of people don't understand that as you get older, and we've had such a long life being independent, and it's hard to give up that independence and hand it over to,
Yeah.
Like, the last thing I hate is somebody putting diapers on me. You know what I mean? That's a horrible thought. But hey, we go out the same way we come in, apparently. So if we live that
naked,
long,
no teeth, no hair, shit in your pants.
right.
Yeah, I know.
Well, on that note, I've been thinking about the whole idea of some of the shows I've been on recently. We've been talking about the whole NDE realm, and what's that like? How could it possibly be what it is? And then the thought occurred to me that when we always hear the question, "What's after death?" and we rarely, if ever,
Decomposition.
What's that?
See, decomposition.
Decomposition.
Yeah.
But we rarely, if ever, think about what was before birth. I mean, we came before we died, but we're always obsessed with, this. Now that we're here, shit. When this ends, what's that all about? Which is, obviously the most important question. But I think a lot of that answer to that question, or at least illumination of it, would be thinking about, well, what was before you were here? Wouldn't it be the same thing? Are they two different things? I don't know. But it seems like the unknown and the abyss that are attributes of how we characterize death and birth are the same. Somehow, all of a sudden, from somewhere, this came. When the death occurs, or what we define as death, it's going to be along the same kind of lines. Most likely, you will just either blink out, or you'll be broke out, or whatever that is. But there's apparently this transitional state. So when I started thinking about it, I thought, well, based on my accumulated characteristics of reality, if everything is a frequency and consciousness is the reason that the universe exists, so consciousness has habit and nature and attributes, and there's no definition in the scientific community, the hallowed halls of academia and the knowledge owners. Consciousness is the one thing that's a hard problem in all of the mechanistic physics that we currently understand our world, or are told how our world is. And it's all in this mechanistic model, completely disregards the ether, which is where the consciousness is. And consciousness has become what each science discipline calls the hard problem, because there is no definition of it. There is no delineation and distinction other than the individual empirical experience of this thing called awareness. And there's apparently a band that's very common that we all inhabit. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
We're all functioning in this frequency field through the individual stamps that we are of the consciousness that we are the result of. So the key is to think about it as, what are the characteristics of consciousness? Seems to be always on, has different levels and delineations in our experience, but at a minimum, it appears to be constantly in motion. It's always moving. And directionally, you can assign it however you want. It can be expanding and moving. But at a minimum, there seems to be a constant forward motion of consciousness. And since consciousness is expressed in what we see and interact with in this universe, in this reality, is based on energy. And now all of the different delineations of higher models of physics have now all agreed that nothing is solid, everything is in a wave state, and a wave is something that something does, not what something is, because frequencies are constantly moving. The whole Tesla think of energy, vibration, and frequency is exactly right. That is how simple the subtlety and the profundity of that reality is. It's that simple. The mechanistic models that we have now are looking at it and trying to figure it, use a bunch of complex ways in which to try to go at the problem. What kind of tools and toys and techniques and technology and telemetry can we come up with to help us explain that which we don't know? So the simplicity of it is that the habit and nature of consciousness is in constant motion, which appears to be constantly creating. There's always more. There's always a push and a movement forward of novelty, new things. So that seems to be what's happening in consciousness. No identity, source, anything else. This is simply observational about how does consciousness seem to function. Well, if consciousness is, we wouldn't have reality without it. We wouldn't know we are in a reality unless we were conscious.
And are we real?
Are we simulated? Are we a giant, pinball video game up there?
And your reality is not my reality. So does your reality really exist? Question.
Well, the only thing that you know is that the unique frequency stamp that makes you who you are, it's your mind. It's not your body. It's the mind, because everything's in frequencies as they materialize. But what we think of is that consciousness energy is something that's in a realm that we only experience, but we haven't built the stuff to go look at yet.
Yeah.
And all
if
the
you don't experience
neurobiology,
it doesn't happen. Exactly. Right. So
well, that's the thing about science.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the quantum X models is that if it can't be observed, it has to be mathematically modeled. It's like, well, the model doesn't guarantee anything. It simply is the latest understanding of quantities and formulas and, crafty calculations that people work with. And they still come up with stuff that all of it is subjective, basically. So if consciousness has a characteristic of constant motion, and it expresses that motion in what we call energy, and energy is a huge, unbelievable, vast, maybe infinite fields of energy and frequency. And as they happen, they happen, and that marker is left. That's where our memories are. That's why we're able to go back in time and non-locality, because that frequency that happened on that event left its own unique signature. So your unique signature moves forward like consciousness, because we are the expression of consciousness at this level that's being that we're Ubering this carbon-based meat suit in this iteration of reality. And I think that has regular cycles, and the idea of what's typically referred to as reincarnation, I refer to as iterations. Because the one thing that's very interesting is that if that whole cyclical iteration is true, what's the purpose of not being able to carry that previous information forward?
Who says you can't?
Good question.
I mean, I know I've been here before at a couple of different times, and I know that I have. Now, Hardy, you probably seen the movie. Guys, maybe not, because it's not a guy movie. But Dangerous Liaisons with John Malkovich, Michelle Close. Michelle Pfeiffer, Glenn
Pfeiffer.
Close. Yeah.
Mhm.
And oh, by the way, that's the wrong way. That's my hot rod, the one up front.
He's a teenager. Told you. I told you
Yeah.
he's a teenager.
Well, I was going to
man.
ask you:
Nice.
is your ride hard to find a parking space for back there? I mean, this seems like you need a little room to park that big bird.
Oh, the one behind me. Yeah, that's. Now they rolled that out. The Skunk Works designed that for the movie Tom Cruise. I mean, Top Gun Maverick. But
Hmm.
now I forgot what the hell I was going to talk about. Where was I? It's like the old thing, squirrel, and my mind goes somewhere else.
Yeah. I think Robert does that on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, Jim and I have had just days long of conversations and just meandering off on a regular basis and just going, okay, what were we just talking about? Because there's a whole bunch of squirrels in those conversations.
Yeah, well, listen, look, I've been wanting to talk about something earlier on. Look, sorry about this, Jim. But look, maybe Heidi can kind of help me on this one. Flying dreams, very common in children, right? Now, I've actually reading the other day, 3% of people on this planet have flying dreams.
Really?
Also, too, yes, it's very common. And then it goes back to the Native Americans when they talk about, they can set flight with in their culture where they're a bird or they're an animal that they take on, they can adopt. I'm an eagle and that's my spirit eagle, and I'm a wolf. I'm a wolf. That's my spirit, and this is what they actually see in their dreams, and so they adopt it, and that's the path they take. So I'm a wolf or I'm a bear or whatever. But the survey they actually done, everybody actually talked to it. Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about flying dreams, and then you've got shadow people. Everybody sees shadow, and also too, deja vu. This has happened before. I'm waiting for the next thing to come along. It doesn't happen, and it's that split second. It's like you're on replay. You've lived this before. I've done it. This is what you were talking about, Jim.
Yeah. Like I say, I knew I lived in France during the French Revolution, and for some reason, I worked for 5 French-speaking companies. One of them was in Quebec, but I just know that I was there, and I went to France for the first time when I was working for Safrel. And we're out in Brittany, in the western part of France, in a town called Rennes. And I had 3 of my engineers there, and we were heading towards Paris, and we wanted to get a bite to eat. And we're coming up through this one little village, and I said, I know there's a place down this. If we take the next left, you're going down about 2 blocks. There's a cute little outdoor cafe. It'd been there for 400 years. I had never been to the village before. I had no knowledge. I just knew where I was at, and that's kind of freaky, because I really feel I have been here more than once.
Well, see, that to me, the way that's explained and what I was trying to communicate earlier is that if all of consciousness is expressed through energy, because everything is energy. And that energy seems to be the set of frequencies, fields of frequencies that are in constant motion. It seems to be always moving in a forward direction from wherever it was. So there's the whole idea of what's discussed in the Abrahamic and Judeo-Christian in particular theologies is that God is the creator and he created us in his image. So his image would be analogous in my model to the consciousness. Its inherent nature is to create. It's constantly creating. It created us. We have a unique frequency stamp, a signature that says, here's our expression of energy field frequencies in its unique, nicely packaged and wrapped container, and off it goes. But because it's a part of that consciousness, it's doing the same thing that the consciousness that it's in is doing, which is constantly moving, constantly creating, constantly thinking, constantly seeking, constantly in the next. We're never in the now. The now is, as soon as the now happens, it's gone,
Yeah.
right? We're constantly and always in the next. Our thinking, our predictive prognostication propensities are one of the most powerful things that we use all the time that most people aren't aware of they're using. And I submit that if the more awareness of how that actually works, it's no philosophy, it's no theology, it's just observation. It's just pure, here's the data. Now you can attach and package it whichever way you want so that you can digest it. But at the end of the day, it's just this information set. So I'm trying to operate from, or look at everything with an observational neutrality so that I can get to the nut of the nugget of whatever it really is. So when I started pursuing that, that's where I came up with Informatica, which is on my website, robertbauer.com. So if you want to find any of that. But the whole concept of Informatica is that everything's information. Everything is information because when we observe something, we are pattern recognition oriented in our mental process, in the way that the mind works. We look at patterns, we process those patterns, they get filtered by our preferences and our biases, all the things that we have some kind of resonance with. That goes through time, which has a rhythm that ends up in always looking forward. We're always thinking of the next and always thinking in the future. We are never in the now. Even the now is the future. But if you realize that your mind, the consciousness is always moving, it's always in motion, and your unique frequency stamp is in that motion, understanding how that frequency stamp, what are the unique frequencies of that stamp? What are the combinations? All the biological, the chemical, all of the physics, the materialistic, mechanistic metrics. And then there's this whole other realm of the ethereum and the psychic capabilities of consciousness, of precognition, of having dreams, having astral body NDEs, which is, I think, what we started with. How do we get back to that? But that to me is how that
Flying dreams.
how that would work. Is
Astral.
that the reason Jim had the experience, and many people have the experience of being somewhere before, is that part of that frequency set that was of that came along with that unique frequency stamp. So you just, it's with you. That's why you don't know what it is until you get close to it. It's kind of like having a radiation meter, right? Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there's what's going on over there, right? So that to me is how that would be explained. I think that the whole idea of the paranormal and the disembodied, the non-corporeal spirits and the gods, angels, all of that realm of the metaphysical, or what I call the ethereum, that's where all of the really powerful stuff is. And that's been purposely sequestered, obfuscated, and just tamped down, because if that knowledge was let out and people weren't guided in their exploration and learning of it, it could get messy, because we are so much more powerful than, and have so much more capability than what we've been told. The entire realm of the mind is the last frontier, because it is the understanding of that connection between what people call the divine, the one, the source, whatever it might be. you don't have to go looking for it. You were already a part of it. You just have to know that it's there and acknowledge your relationship with it, your unique relationship in the field, the family field of consciousness.
Hmm.
It becomes, oh my God, once I got to that point, I went, okay, now I understand my religious experiences, my spiritual experiences, the relationships, the children. I'm even having a whole nother experience in that realm and with my grandchildren. I'm going, what? What's going on over there? What karmic path are you coming on? So anyway, that's my little rant about that, because I think it's really important to get to the nuts of the nuggets, get to what is the core thing of all these really important issues, and get there without all of the packaging, all of the decorations, all of the fancy shit and crazy shit that's been wrapped around whatever the subject might be. Because there's a lot of confusion by intent.
Excuse me for a moment there. Jim,
Yeah.
JP has a question for you. It's on the actual screen, mate.
I mean, JPAC, that's the group in at Hickam that goes out and looks for the remains of killed in action, body not recovered types. That's what I believe JPAC is.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend in Hawaii that actually did that. And she said it was unbelievable, some of the stuff they came across. They were in it was in Vietnam or Cambodia, one of the two, and they were trying to excavate a crash site, and they were having some problems. And she was walking through the jungle because her group was ahead of her, but they went a little bit different way. And she trips on something and she was crashing down on it. And it's a roundel from a World War II B-24 that they had no idea it was missing. They were able to identify the airplane and everything else. So if JPAC is what he's talking about, I'm familiar with it. I don't know if I mean, there's snakes and nasty stuff in Belize, but I think there's a lot of nastier stuff in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, like cobras and whatever.
Yeah, they got one called 3-step. You get bitten, 3 steps, you're down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so that was a thought. I'm aware of it, but no, I'm not. I haven't been part of it. I think they're looking for specific degreed individuals. Now, we were talking about the educational system earlier tonight, and that was a couple hours ago. I guess there was a thing just recently in the news that some agency had contacted or did a survey on the Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 companies, asking, do you require degrees for these certain areas of expertise? And they came back and basically said that jobs that at one time required a degree are no longer. Over 55% of the respondents say they're removing, in mass, requirements for degrees. Now, on certain stuff like a doctor or a pharmacist, there's something where you have a very well-defined discipline. That's one thing. But in areas where you're not, I was the curator at the Pacific Aviation Museum in Pearl Harbor. They wanted a PhD or someone with a master's degree. I have 3 years at the University of Minnesota. That's it. I don't have a little BS on my wall. I got a lot of BS in my heart and soul, but
I knew we were going down that path.
And on your boots.
And yeah, my first wife's uncle was president of the Board of Regents at the University of Minnesota. And I was talking with Les one evening, and he said, Jim, of all the people I've known in my life, you're one person that doesn't need a college degree to do what you're doing. So if to go back to school, you're in essence wasting your time.
That's
And
right.
that held true when I was in Hawaii. They wanted me I got hired over 5 other people with degrees and myself, 2 PhDs, 2 masters, and one that had a degree in history that lived in Hawaii. I lived in Washington State, and I got the job because I've done everything they were looking for. I've done. I didn't, I don't know the theory behind it. I didn't, I read about it in school, but I've never
Jim, back in the
practiced it.
day, didn't we call that on the job training?
Absolutely.
Right. We learned by, going and doing it. And, I'm a big proponent every time I see somebody pass around the meme of bringing shop class back to school.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
You
Yeah.
do that.
I mean, there's just no, there's no excuse for not teaching skills. And what's interesting on this whole conversation of, the college degree thing, I mean, they are now at the point where I think it was Amazon, was one of the big tech companies recently. They made an announcement that you no longer have to have any kind of college degree to apply for any of the positions at their company. I think it was Amazon, but there's more of that going on, along with the whole realization that, back to what I was saying earlier about, the crappy product that's being sold to these very, they're naive. They're not ready to make this kind of financial decision. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that none of the concepts of economics about managing your own self in society was ever taught in school. So shop class got axed. Remember homemaking?
Yeah.
I mean, we used to, I'd go there there was mostly girls. And I was like, there was a bunch of reasons I was there, but I learned how to cook. Right.
I went to home ec as well. I had home
Right.
ec one semester.
And
There's a
so
cute girl there.
that kind of experience is missing for this latest generation. I'm not sure what letter is it Z? Are they the Zoomers?
I don't know.
I-
don't know.
It's just like the LBGTQI plus, whatever that. I lose track of all that because they've made it so complicated that I just okay, whatever your thing is, I know you're in that family. I got you.
Yeah, here's a classic example, Robert.
Mm.
Skills today, it's not like skills were 100, 200, 3 years ago, where father used to teach son. Now, the furniture and stuff they used to make 300 or 400 years ago, a lot of this, they call it fine furniture, and they sell for about $1 million, and they're still surviving today. These people did not have technical colleges. They didn't even know how to read. They worked off a piece of string, for measurement,
Well,
and they made the most finest furniture. And now we've got technical colleges, and you've got to get your diploma for this, you've got to get your diploma for that. And what are they creating? What I call chipboard junk.
Yeah.
Chipboard junk. It's exactly.
Well, the thing is, the point you're making is, if I'm understanding you right, is that the difference between schooling, and most of this is done by the church 300 or 400 years ago. Okay, most of it was monasteries, and you started to have like the Cambridges and the Trinities and all of that coming up in Europe. And those were still religious oriented institutions. They're the ones who governed the stuff. Well, back then you didn't have all this cool stuff we got now. So part of your schooling, and it's very classic in the Kung Fu movies in China when they go to the Shaolin temples. I mean, you sweep for a year before they even put you in any classes. You learn discipline and having to clean up and take care of shit and be on time. And that's not taught. In fact, even attending a class, let alone being late, is like, yeah, well, whatever. The importance of learning something, adding to your knowledge stack is missing in the entire paradigm. And what makes it worse is the crap that they're giving them to consume. So when you have that kind of environment, what are you going to produce? Just look out on social media. Just look out, go to shopping.
Mhm.
The whole
A bunch
face
of Homer
plant.
Simpsons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the whole
No,
face
you're
plant.
giving them too much credit. They're
Well,
they're not even at Homer's level to it for all intents and purposes.
yeah.
True.
But as we see this transformative period unfold, they're going to be the ones that need to be a part of making sure that the old is replaced by the new. And right now, most of them can't start push mowers.
They can't use a rotary telephone.
Well, that's what I mean. If you can't start a push mower, then and you can't figure out how to grab the handles and just push it, then there's trouble in your future.
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to get to was there's the lack of knowledge and skills is what's the skill knowledge set is what's one of the first things that was removed in the education or schooling system. And that would be a perfect example, I think, with what Heidi's doing. You're trying to let the individual frequency stamp express its skill set.
Yes.
Find it and express it, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I was giggling earlier when you were talking because I just had this convo this week with the kids about the future and the now and all that. So we have one particular kid I think of, he just rushes. He wants to be done. I'm like, what are you rushing for? Like, everybody else is working. But I say, all the kids clench up whenever he yells, I'm done. And he puts his thing down. I go, did you feel how you just shifted the entire class just by saying that? And then I said, anybody know that I can travel to the future? I'm going to do it right now. And I take a step. I'm like, done. And then we just play with the frequency vibration stuff. Is that what you asked? You didn't really ask. Sorry.
No.
I just wanted to tell you that.
I think that the fact that you're aware of the importance of vibration and you're giving that awareness to these kids is huge.
It's
in
a
my
big part
opinion.
Yeah. It's everything. I think it's our weekly curriculum. I tie it into everything I can. And I don't know if you saw those posts, but even just this week, we're shifting it into a new learning block of it's the holidays, 'tis the season. But to me, it's the festival of lights and all these different cultures and everything. It's about the light within and coming into the darkness with the light and with your inner light and how you can amplify and light up others. And I would give them examples of me as a kid and then as an adult. And they, at the very beginning of it, they had the holiday talks and everyone got excited about gifting. So I had them draw little pictures of all the things they want to manifest and all the things they wish they could get and all this. And see these Pokemon cards and money falling out of trees and all these little drawings. I'm like, great, now let's put those away. The rest of the month, we're just going to gifting others. And what's something I always ask them to answer me, but to come up with what I put on the board and stuff. But I always ask, what's something we can give to somebody that's free? And they're like, hug, smile, da, da, da. And basically we narrow it down to like, what is that? It's like, oh, it's a high frequency. You're giving someone like a light or a good vibration. And that's what we're working on this month. And so we're going to do like a mini Secret Santa where they gift someone that they, that doesn't know they're getting a gift from them, but we've already sent gifts home to our families. And it's all that feeling. And I have them sit with it and I go, what does that feel like when we do that? And they have to close their eyes and they use words. It's really cool. We also had a turbulent moment where a couple of our little boys are from Jewish households and they came in and you can tell they're regurgitating things they're hearing at home or that if the news is on in the background, and other children were getting quite upset. Some families don't do any media, so they don't know there's war, all these things going on. And so I brought them in our outdoor classroom, by the way, Jim, we're outside and our feet are in the ground. And I say, no, let's feel in the earth energy and let's bring down, the source and just sit with it and go, what can we do? We can light up the planet. That's like one kid said. I go, yes. So we would sit with it and our eyes closed and just sit. And I'm like, please just send peace to the planet. And And I go, we're going to do a countdown and sit with it for a minute. And then I kept peeking and everyone's like talking, they're like just doing it really hard. And then when they're done, every face was lifted. Every face was like, like I did something. And I'm like, beautiful. That's what we can do. And then we moved on. All these amazing things are they're sponges. They want to help. They want to assist. And if we're so freaked out about our future, then we need to not program our children. We need to activate our children to their own power, empower them with
Amen.
the skills out there.
One of the problems that I've noticed with today's youth, you have a different perspective than I do, since you're trying to educate them, I'm trying to figure them out. Is if more and more things that we held close to us as recreational things to do are disappearing, because hunting, camping, bowling, whatever, just getting out of the house, going out and do stuff. If it's not connected to Wi-Fi, they don't have an interest in it. I mean, I have a grandson who was born on my birthday, and he has a lot of traits like his grandfather, and I feel sorry for him. But he went out. He works at Duluth Clothiers in the Minneapolis area, and he loves what he does. But they won't hire him. They won't bring him on full time because they have to pay benefits. So they're going to lose him. But that's beside the point. All his money goes to his video gaming console. He just spent, I think it was $1,800 for, I think it's a 60-inch. It's a curved screen on that, so he can get multiple stuff up there at the same time as he's playing his games. He has a $1,200 seat, chair, whatever it is, for gaming. I mean, that's all he does. He works and he does his gaming. You never see him, and he's not the exception. He's the rule.
Such a waste of a life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a waste of a life.
That's why I like vlogging and talking. I'm really vocal online because I'm sharing that there's so many that aren't. They're still there. They're still intact. They're going to help shift the planet, and they're around because I'm witnessing it. So I'm very well aware of those kind of folks that totally check out, and I could feel the pull of it myself when I get pulled into that. But I'm watching families consciously parent better, and I'm watching the products of it. And even when we were talking about marriage before, a little call back. But as an educator, I can tell you how every household, what the families like, what the parents are like, what their relationships like, based on their child's frequency. I know based on how those children behave in class, what's going on at home. And that freaks some parents out. But at the same time, they want help with their child. And there's even chill, balanced, high vibe kids that have separated parents, but it's all about the conscious parenting and what's done to these children. So my point being, I'm witnessing generations from K through 8 that are not plugged in that way, that are critical thinkers and are developing it even stronger. And that's in LA. And that's why I do stick to my GeoPoint here, because I think it's very important to flip this place light. But that's the crime against humanity. That's the weapon of mass destruction. What we've been doing is plugging everybody in and disconnecting from source.
So Heidi, what's the top characteristics that you've noticed between the parents of the children and then the top characteristics of the children themselves?
The top of them in general, or like the ones that are having a rough time? Of
the parents. You said that you can tell what the parents are like, right?
Oh, based on their kids. Well, I know when there's trouble in paradise. Like I know when they're disconnected, or when there's a lot of anxiety and stress at home.
Is there something that's common?
Walks in with it.
Is it something, or can you identify something that's common among the parents that have decided to put their children into your program? Is there some?
Yeah. To be honest, the first thing that pops in, and I can think of a couple kids actually, maybe even 4. One of the parent is wakening and one is still asleep. That's a big one because a lot of them are like, what are we, they need to be in 5 days a week. They need to follow the state, they need, and the other parents like, I don't think they have to anymore. We found a solution. And then sometimes the marriage dissolves, or, the other one, thank goodness I have seen both parents awake. And I don't mean woke. I mean going, what's better for my child? What is the humane thing? What's the best human experience we can do right now? How can I protect this amazing little human?
Woke has
Yeah.
been hijacked and weaponized, and it's become a joke. So woke's a joke, but
Yeah.
being awake or in a state of awakeness
Mhm.
is, to me, the first minimal criteria to go engage in reality. Because if you're not paying attention to as much as you can and understanding as much as you can, basically doing a frequency, a radar scan, you're going to run into all of the crap that we're seeing. But what's
Mhm.
the common characteristic you're seeing of the kids?
There's anxiousness. There's a lot of anxiousness, or they can't, I call it, they're not in their body. There's just all these out breaths. Even though we have an outdoor class and there is a lot of out, I've structured it so we take our in breaths and we can actually digest some stuff. But some of these children can't get grounded. Even when we're literally standing in the dirt, calling in, or, crystals in hand, they can't ground themselves. And I think there's because they feel this thing at home. They don't have rest. They're not, when they get home, they feel safe at our class, but I think they go home and they're just picking up on parents crazy energies, and it doesn't allow them to just sit with us. They're always somewhere else, and a little like quick and jumpy and short, and not in their body, not paying attention to the now moment. I think that's a big.
Yeah, what I actually find as well that parents today, we tend to say, look, I'll buy you this if you be a good boy or good girl. I'll buy you this, They don't teach them the consequences. I mean, we overprotect them. I won't let my kids go out to play because I don't want them to mix with the wrong people. There's drugs and everything out there. So I'll get them their Wi-Fi. I'll get them their Sony PlayStation, and I'll give them everything they want. And, overprotecting, the kids have got to learn to, the trip over, fall over, skin the knees. They've got to learn that stuff, it's part of growing up. And we tend to kind of say, okay, you've been a good boy today. I'm going to buy you something special because you've been a good boy. Don't bribe them to be a good boy, but reward them for being a good boy or good girl, And that's the difference. They give for the sake of giving rather than they earned it. And that's
It's
the
usually
problem.
it's usually just to appease the parents' moment because they don't know what to do,
Well,
or it's programming of what was done to them when they
I
were
remember
young.
my son. I mortified some people. Like there was I in the shopping centre there with my son. He was only 6 at the time. He started going into a tantrum. I want this, and I just turned around and said, do I have to give you a public flogging? and all these mums around me looked at me and went, oh, you say that to your kid? Well, it worked because my son shut up very quickly. Now, I never smacked my kids. Have I ever smacked my kids? Yes. I smacked them when they were about 7 or 8 years of age. And I've only smacked each of my children once, each of them once. And that once was right up to that moment. I'll say, I want you to go to your room, think about what you're doing. If you're going to continue the way you are, you're going to get a smack. And then in their mind's eye, never smacks us. That's just a threat, Well, when they get a bit older and tougher and they can take a bit of a whack, then Dad comes in with a leather belt wrapped up, and I give him 3 big whacks across the backside. That leaves the whelp. Literally. Now, I've told you, I've been telling you for years, behave yourself, or else you're going to go. Now you've got it. And you know what? From that moment, they all remember that smack. They really, I'm a horrible dad, but they remember that smack. And the thing is, right, even now, my eldest son, I says, come on, stop it now, because if you're going to continue, I'm going to sit you on your backside. They won't play that game with me, they won't push me to that. Now I just say, go to the bedroom, go and think about what you're doing. And I tell you, after I gave him that smack, to come back about 10 minutes later saying, sorry, Dad. It only takes one. You don't have to whip them and flog them every time that's naughty. You just say, back off. I mean, a lot of people disagree about that, but if you're going to give threats and nothing happens, and they're going to keep being naughty, you just got to come up front and say, okay, I was raised up with a leather belt regularly. I was a little swine of a kid, you know, but it
Well,
never didn't do me
one of
any
the things
harm.
that one of the things that helps, I think, at least it helped me when I had children that were not on my bucket list. There was not a bucket, and that certainly was not on any list that might have been in it. Scared to death of having kids. And I'm in my mid 60s and I'm still raising myself. I had no responsibility raising anybody else, but I ended up with 2 girls. Thought if I had kids, it was going to be boys. Much easier to manage because they'd be more like me. And I, kept thinking about that, not sure that was the right model. Nonetheless, I ended up with 2 incredible kids. Hit the lotto in the kid department. Girls, 5 foot, total badasses. My oldest one is basically a mini me, which
Oh,
is kind of
God.
scary.
What
but
is it with what is it with short women with their tempers? I mean,
Well, I think it's attitude. It's at least mine were attitude. It wasn't temper. Temper was something they used to express their attitude. So anyway, I didn't think about that. That wasn't what I planned to do, and yet it all turned out magically. I even hit the lotto and the son-in-law draw for both of them, and now I got these great grandkids. And I'm sitting there going, did not see that coming.
Yeah.
That was not in the path I was paving. Okay. Yeah,
You're
it just a tree popped out in the middle of the road. And the point I was going to make was about the kids. So, yes, culture. So, if you look at Asian cultures, Japanese, the Philippines, Chinese, the Koreans, there's an entirely different familial construct that those societies operate in. In fact, most all of them have the same essential characteristic of the deep respect for elders. There is it doesn't matter if you know them or they're your family. You encounter one of the seasoned citizens, the respect must be executed like this. In other words, you must give total respect. They also
I'm married to a Filipina, and I tell you something. You're right on. You're spot on there. Very family, really family orientated. A lot of respect for their elders. They care for their elders, and it's spot on. My stepchildren. I mean, my own children. My they're too independent. They're off out doing their thing, you know. But my stepchildren always come to me and they bring me, serving me food, and they're kind of caring for me, you know, like I'm a geriatric. But they love me to bits, and I appreciate it. They're really great, you know. You're right.
See, there's a different attitude and a different culture about families in different cultures around the world. Ours has been they gave us a box, the family unit. Thou shalt reproduce and make one more, you know, at least average on the plus side on the production model, so that you're contributing to the quantity of subjects that we need to have access to for whatever purpose we're going to execute, but keep making those kids. And the whole idea of an administrated relationship that's been given sanction by the government entities is the first place where it needs to be severed. As soon as you get the government out of people having relationships, the much more effective those relationships are going to be. And I may have sounded like I was joking on the leasing, marriage and renting relationship model, but no, I'm dead serious. I think that it at a minimum needs to be introduced as an option in the system.
I'm there with you. My little giant's from overseas, and when we met, I'm like, well, I don't know how this will work because I'm not going to marry you. Like, I've been there, done that. I don't want the government involvement, and sorry, pal. And I can't hire you to work for my small business because it'll ruin my taxes. Like, I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. So he came over twice. And then I'm like, every time he left, I'm like, this is awful. And he came back with a 6-month visa and he said, I'll woo you. And I thought, yeah. But by the end of it, I'm like, you can't go back. Let's just elope. And he's like, are you serious? And I fell for that, but I'm so glad I did because lockdown happened right after. So he's here. And now he's going to be sworn in as citizen in a couple weeks. And he's
good for him.
filing to legally adopt my kids. So now
He's
my
a Welshman. He's a Welshman. He's a Welshman.
You know,
Yes.
Polish moved from Wales.
Does he say boyo? Is he, hey, boyo?
Boyo, no. Well, say
No.
well, he's Polish. He lived in
Polish.
Wales. Yeah,
Oh,
he lived in
right.
Wales
Okay.
he lived in Wales like 18 years, but he's a big Polish man. But he's
based
legally adopting. So I'm like, that's another government thing. I didn't even get my kids enrolled in a charter. I didn't want to be involved with state or government or anything. And then I saw what I needed from the system. I'm like, I'll play the game for a little bit. So we're playing the marriage game.
Anyway, listen,
adoption.
look, I just want to tell everybody, look, press the little button up top there, and down below, the old like, actually, I can give a bit of a demo. Hit that one for us, will you? That one there, you see that little thumb up? Give it a thumbs up, give it a tickle, and also give the little fella, or give that, subscribe a bit of a tickle. And then he said that, give that little fella down there a tickle. I meant the subscribe. I got to keep it clean. Oh my God, where am I going with this? Jim Goodall will turn around and say, Mr. B, you're sick. You're sick.
He does send me a lot of sick stuff.
It's only because I got a sense of humor. I mean, I'll tell you something about Filipinos, right? They're loving, they're caring, they love cooking, they love spoon feeding them. The last person.
Did you say you like spooning?
Spoon feeding me.
Spoon feeding.
Right?
Oh,
yeah. And
I was going to say TMI, buddy.
The last person that spoon fed me was my mother until I met my wife. And then she's kind of shoving food and got to point, I don't want anyone that goes, now eat it. And they literally shove food down your throat. But I literally have to watch my P's and Q's around my dear. Literally have to watch my P's and Q's. And they are, they don't understand our culture all that much. They're very embedded in their own, which I don't mind, But I go out there now and guarantee everybody's speaking Tagalog. I walk in the room, they'll still keep speaking Tagalog. But fortunate for me, I can't speak it, but I'm beginning to understand it. And that's scary. And that's scary. I can't speak Tagalog, but I'm starting to understand it. And it's like, whoa, this is what it actually does. It does
It's so hard.
My psychic. It does it all for me, But
that was
so
pretty
hard.
cool. I want one of those.
yeah. Hey, well, if you look at top and you see the little green camera on the top of your screen, you'll see the like way at the top, right next to your name. Anyway, you see a little green screen, little dot there. You go down there and it goes to reactions. You got a lot of little features in there. I can do fireworks. Right, I can do all these party things, Well, I can even make it rain. Yeah, and then I can shove out the hearts. You know what I mean? I can do it all there, and I can give it the thumbs down if I want. No, don't give it thumbs down, everybody. Give it the old thumbs up. Come on, that's it. And I got balloons there. So it's party time. So all these little features. It's a wonderful little thing. It's nothing to do with the actual. It's separate to the actual StreamYard. It's part of the system, I think. But it's good. But guys, we've been at this for 2 hours and 19 minutes so far, and I tell you, we've got quite a few people still listening in. We've still got them there, but I don't know if we should carry on or just stop because it's getting that time of the day. Well, what do you say? I'll leave it up to the board. What do you think, Jim? Have you had enough for today, mate? Jim?
I'm back.
Yeah, have you had enough for today, or do you want more?
more
The wrong question to ask him.
What about you, Heidi? Can you carry on, or you've got things to do?
Maybe I'm going to tuck kiddos in soon, but I can always just say goodbye in a bit, maybe 10.
Okay.
minutes.
What about you, Robert? How do you feel?
Well, you know me. Anytime I've got a gap to go flap my yap, it's I'm stepping
Oh
in.
well, I tell you, we've got 38. We've got 38 people looking in on us at the moment, so we may as well keep them there. Well, I mean, I usually only have about 4, 5, 6,
Yeah,
7
we have to
people.
think about think about the other people who don't have anything to do tonight,
That's
which,
right. And
which we are a part of. But the only reason we're doing something is because it's here. The rest of the folks are going, didn't have anything to do tonight. Let's see what these yo-yos are yakking about.
Yeah. As long as they like and subscribe, that's the important thing. You've got to like and subscribe. And hey, Heidi Pope's got a new podcast coming up soon, I believe, and I've got to work on her. I've got to work on her intro for her. So I promise I'll do that.
And my cheerleading, because I think I've given like 9 different titles and
So
all my
what
personalities.
So what? So you're after something like this where everybody can just get in and chat and da. We can all come over to your show and drive everybody
wonderful.
crazy. Yeah.
That's so great. I used to always.
What? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Good idea.
Well, I love the high vibe.
We can come and we can all come and harass you. Take over your show, and then you can sit back like me, and just watch the show unfold. It just
let the balloons
just happens.
go.
It just unfolds. Yeah, it just unfolds. Hey, great guys. Look at Jim. Like, mate, he's the cherry on the tree, on the cake. This guy, Jim, good old mate. He's always got something to talk about. He's always interesting, really interesting. And I think Robert will agree with me there. And then we've got our new resident, Gerald. And I mean, he's the one on the side kind of playing, is this for real?
He's trying to contemplate whether he should come back.
No, he loves it. He loves it. He's enjoying it. I know. Gerald just turned around and said, I've got to go.
I don't like joining any types of groups. Usually I can last a year as a volunteer somewhere or an interest group. But I fell into this, the abyss, I guess you call it, of things that go bump in the night, UFO stuff. And it's led me to you guys, and I absolutely love it. I feel right at home. I feel this is where I belong. Normally, by now, I wasn't involved in this group at all until March of 19. And I sort of fell into it by accident. My friend Michael Schratt was going to be in Phoenix. I live here in Tucson. He was going to be at a MUFON function. So I thought I'd go up there and see him. And next thing I know, I'm here. And it just...
Hey, Jim, you'll have to, next time you talk to Michael Schratt, you drag him on the show and we can give him a hard time.
I mean, I talked to Michael, but so since he moved back east, I don't talk to him every day.
All right.
Because I usually don't think about calling him until about now. And it's 10:30 here. And it's gonna be 12:30 there. And he says, you can call me anyway. I said, well, no, I just it's just not cool. So, but Michael's like my kid. And I think the world of what he does. No one.
Excellent researcher.
No one does what Michael does any better than Michael. Michael's the absolutely best at what he does. And there isn't anything about UFO crashes or retrievals that he isn't familiar with. And the other wonderful aspect of Michael Schratt, I don't think he's capable of telling a lie. And in today's world, that's really quite a statement and a half.
I really admire his work there, Jim. I really do.
Well, it's not necessarily work; it's an absolute obsession. Okay, he was for the last 25 years. Every weekend on his own nickel, he would fly somewhere or drive somewhere to interview an abductee, to talk, to see a collection of UFO materials, to track down this, to interview this person, that person. I mean, he was every available dollar he had went into his passion, which is gathering as much information in one location of all the UFO events of the last 1,000 years. And he's, I don't, Heidi, have you ever seen Michael on the air or
Yes,
given
I do
talks?
know. I'm familiar with that name. I'd like to say I'm a contactee and experiencer, so I follow those names.
Okay, because
Heidi, you have a contactee experience?
Yeah, I'm a kid. I had kid issues. I mean, yes, that's kind of how I started talking on some stuff.
Join the
A
club.
couple
Join the club.
instances. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it something that you share?
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't want to interrupt Jim.
Can you give us that little?
I can rant.
I've heard
Yeah, I'll give
Jim
you a
talk for
nugget.
hours.
Yeah, as long as it's not a turd on the table.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help that. I couldn't help
pick it up by
that.
the clean end. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your experience, Heidi. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's just
Yes, massive.
here goes. Thank you. Did you hear the dog?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, she's gonna talk about it again. But it was really there's a chunk my early childhood, which is so ironic, Jim. I had my first 5 years of my life in Houston. Total don't remember anything. And then we moved to the Pacific Northwest, and that's where I started encountering a Bigfoot sighting, like little fairies in my backyard. And I had those kind of experiences that my mom was like, oh yeah, that happens. It's multidimensional beings. And I was introduced to all that stuff that way. And then we moved back to family roots in the Midwest, northwest suburbs of Chicago. And then from there, we had a home summering in Wisconsin, up in Door County on the Bay, where my dad was born. All three of my siblings, we all were conceived there. And when we started staying up there, I was 12 till about 16. I went through a lot of issues at night, a lot of night terrors, a lot of white lightning, a lot of sleep paralysis, just a lot of stuff. And there's so much contact up there. It's a hot spot. And my mom was also a contactee. She'd have missing time and missing nights. And so when the two of us were up there, and then she'd see figures in the house and stuff. And so I went from like, I have a routine that I put myself to bed at and I still do it. And I had also gotten into Whitley Schreiber at the time and read Communion. So my whole experience of the fairies and the magic of it all went to like, what? And then my 30s, I started studying, more of what was going on with the government projects and everything, which I feel there's a lot of activity in the Great Lakes. And I'm like, was this a good experience? Was this a bad experience?
Let me, I'd like to ask you a question about you said that there was essentially a progression of these experiences, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And so each one became more in that realm of the mystical, the magical, and et cetera, like the fairies, right? Mm-hmm. So what was that? How did they manifest? How were they expressed that made you?
I've heard the fairy thing before myself. I've heard
that you called them fairies. What was that?
I called them, my mom probably gave me that word, and I did have a room decked in fairy stuff. But to me, we lived on a hillside in Portland, and our yard was basically just the hill. So to go out to play, you were just climbing in the mountain and like hanging from the trees and things. So I made little tree houses. But to me, it was like orbs of light, like little golden orbs of light. And I always felt a presence, basically, because I was always talking. Like my sister, we did hang out all the time, but we spent a lot of time by ourselves. And everything was outside, or I would either be outside or in my room. I loved being in my room. Like to reprimand me and send me in my room, it was like, yes. Like don't make me come out. I just loved my little sanctuaries. So I'd make little sanctuaries outside, and then I just always felt a presence. When the presence went dark, I feel, and I shared this on one, is like an epiphany. I'm wondering if it's because I read communion, it changed my perspective of those feelings and experiences to like terror. I don't know, but it was pretty terrorizing for the sleep paralysis. And then, my mom confirming, going, yeah, I saw ships and, there's a lot of activity up here. And I was like, what? And then when I read about the hybrid program and stuff and issues with my mom and I regarding it all started resonating. I started studying that kind of stuff. Where I tie it back into the magic of it all is when I started practicing alchemy, when I started cleaning up my meat suit and really getting in touch with things and being able to, manifest and alchemize and just all those kinds of things. I just consider it more gifts that we all have. And I'm wondering if that's what I was playing with as a kid, playing with the flowers and the flower fairies and all that kind of stuff, whether they were there or not, maybe. The dark stuff, I always keep, my instinct is to say that was human involvement, like that's government involvement or something. Maybe it wasn't so much source energy, because to me, that's just pure. And this seemed dark. And so, but it all makes sense though, too. Like there's so many things. When I did a year of raising star seeds with Abby Lynn. And that was fascinating to me because we brought on everybody we talked so much, such a big range of stuff that I was getting activated all the time. I was only vlogging for maybe 2 years and then I did that. So I was really getting used to this kind of thing. So I was really like on the show, but like watching guests like, like that was me, or, like I was really like taking notes and I'm like, this is crazy cool. And then it opened a whole nother can of worms. My mom used to always still take me to like little conferences and stuff. So I, was doing these kinds of meditations as a kid, when younger. So the fact she didn't poo any of this knowledge made me believe and dive deeper into it. And I think that's how I started exploring those kind of things. And no more darkness. I've had contact here when I was at my purest, like asking for it, but also connected. And I know it was because the euphoria I felt, just felt like that connection. And then Pacific Northwest, I got to go up there again. And I just felt that presence again. I was back in Door County where the dark stuff happens. My sister lives there. She has a great place there. She's bringing the family back, but I don't feel those things anymore. And I also put a lot of protection around my daughter because she was the age when we went back of when I started getting these nightmares and all this stuff happening. Just in case those underground entrances, opened up or something. So, and what's funny is some of the kids,
I was just going to ask
sorry.
you, you said you were a contactee, right?
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and what you mean by that is these encounters that you've had that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like they're the more, experiencer. I say contactee because of where I went, where I felt like I went. Some of the latest I've been getting told from community members, oh, it's recall, you were in a program and it's these recurring kind of visions and dreams. And I'm not sure how I haven't quite unpacked it because I've been focused in the 3D. So now I'm trying to say, how can I bring that feeling of a multidimensional kind of experiences into my 3D? And now I'm on tangent now. So as far as contact, yeah, to me, that's my contact, my mom with these the lights and the ships and the missing time. And then the nighttime, I'd wake up in the morning. I go, why was the storm? And she goes, what storm? And I go, it was white lightning and all this stuff in my room. And I mean, this is all my speculation and how the timeline I put it together, but it seems a little sus.
You think there might have been some intervention and from some source or path? Back on the fairy thing, you said that they were like little golden orbs.
And that's the most recall I can have about it, if that makes sense, as well as just this feeling of a lot of little creatures around. Like I just felt always these creatures. And then I went to this little school where I jumped schools, but this one Catholic school we had to go to for a little while. The recess, I just didn't like people. And now I do, but I didn't know how to balance the energy. So I was really like, I just picked up on everything. So I found a hollowed out tree, and I would sit in the tree and watch recess, and I was so fine. The teachers were worried about me. I'm like, no, this is great. I'm having the best recess ever. I'm just sitting here. But then I remember the little lights. And I have to call back, though. In 2022, I went to a conference in Grafton, Illinois. It was the first one of Journey to Truth. And I stayed in my little cabin, and I was having a lot of situations there. I had 2 gallons of water. I couldn't stop drinking water, and my lips were dry and falling. Like, all this crazy stuff was happening to my body. Kind of like what you said, when you're around something like radiation, you're going to react. My body was reacting so crazy over there. And then I had a couple readings. I had some fun little things like hippie woo-woo stuff going down. And I went into my little room and I go, you know what? I want to call it in. I want to have these experiences again. And I walked into my room, and there were like thousands of little golden orb lights everywhere. And I wondered, and I go, is this for me? And it was like a boop, boop, boop. And then they all left. And I'm like, I'm sober, so I don't know what's your all take on this. I've seen so many shows with all you guys, so I don't know how you want to pack
Well,
that.
to me, that's basically what you are, an active participant and member of the woo woo. What is considered the woo,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
So,
Yeah.
because people that are in the woo are pursuing the knowledge and these experiences, and are having these experiences where it's like, wait a minute, that had a very surreal component to it. It felt real, but then it didn't. But then I was there and I remember it, but then it seems like this, and you pick up all the different vibes of whatever's in that environment, in that setting. So you saw what you interpreted kind of as like a golden ball of energy of some kind or something. And then there were other entities that didn't feel so good, that had some kind of negative energy about them. I haven't had, with as much pursuit of the spiritual and the different people that I've encountered along the way that have had a lot of these experiences, I've never had another entity experience. I've had a flow experience. I've had a buzz experience. Back in the 70s, when I was doing what we all did back
Called
then,
acid.
taking all these enhanced.
California sunshine, wasn't it, Jim?
Yeah.
I took acid 3 times and I never saw anything.
I never
like,
did.
okay.
I never did. I was involved. Everybody around me was taking it, but I never did.
So I've never had any of those kinds of experiences like you're talking about that you've experienced. But I do have.
Yeah, those were all sober. I had my drug days.
Yeah,
I didn't have experience.
and there's
all
not
have.
much difference between the two, right? Except there was a substance involved, but there's a lot of similarities between the two experiences. For me, my experiences in the supernatural and the spiritual and the sometimes I like to consider myself a psychonaut, because I'm constantly going and exploring in the magical realm of the mind, because there's just so much there. It's just mind-boggling, pun intended. But the experiences where there's these disembodied spirits, these incorporeal entities, these the paranormal thing. My personal opinion is that from the data I've seen and the people I've talked to, most of that, if not all of it, has been manifested by the experiencer.
Makes sense.
Because from the consistency of the stories, of the way that people describe these encounters, that personal subjective empirical reality that one experiences is totally unique to that individual, and there's no kind of empirical evidence that you can pull out of yourself and say, see, this is what I experienced. You can describe it, you can try to explain it, but it's all very subjective and unique to the individual. The only
That
thing
makes
that I
sense.
had that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, I was about 6, and I was laying in bed, and this happened 3 or 4 times, and there would be this like glowing thing moving along the wall, and it would make me, lean away from the wall, and then I'd see these not so nice folks, kind of spirit animal things, swimming around in circles in the room up by the light. And I would look at them and go, you guys aren't happy. This doesn't look like it's going to be good. And I would push them away. But outside of that, I've never had anything in that paranormal, supernatural realm experience. I've seen phenomena in the sky, but I've never seen a UFO. I've seen people that I swear to God are aliens, but I don't have the proof.
Yeah.
And there seems to be more of them now than there ever has been.
I think my daughter
Yeah.
Alicia is an alien. I really do. She doesn't think like anybody I know.
So Heidi, you define yourself as an experiencer, right? Right. Of the things that we generally classified in the world of woo. So you're a
The
woo
paranormal.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My woo
paranormal was-
paranormal.
Well,
Yeah.
the guest I had on last night, Eric Mitchell, he actually described his experience it's like you described, a small orange orb, and this little orb grew to the size of about 50 feet in diameter. It just expanded above him, and of course, with him, it hit him like a beam right in the head, which made him hit the ground, and he was convulsioning, vomiting, and stuff like that. And even today, he's been a lab rat a few times at some universities. They put a microphone to his head. I actually showed the video last night, and you can actually think 1, 2, 3, and it'll pick it up on an oscilloscope. You can actually read what he's actually saying with a normal microphone, bang, put to his forehead. And that was a weird experience. And he'll be coming back on the show again. Apparently, something's going public with him in about another 4 or 5 days. Apparently, he's doing some tests at a renowned university in the States. Apparently, it's all hush-hush at the moment, but don't know what. Top scientists and that are prodding into him, sort of thing. So he's been a lab rat again. So very interesting. And orbs, yes, is a common fact. It's not the first time, second time, or third time. I've heard so many about orbs and also fairies as well. That's a classic one, fairies, and more so with women, more so than men. With men, like with myself, my good friend John Yost, who's sick at the moment, which anybody out there, if they see, donate to John, he's battling cancer at the moment, John Yost, and GoFundMe. If you see it, I'll post it later on my show, on my page, and go and fund John. Well, when John and I met for the first time, he said, "Have you seen my documentary?" I said, "What documentary?" I didn't even know he was a movie maker. And he says, "Oh, it's about abduction." And I says, "Oh, yeah. And I says, "I've been abducted." And he says, "Yeah, tell me what happened to you." And I explained to him, I told him what happened to me. And he says, "Oh, you've got to watch my documentary." And I says, "Okay, where is this?" He says, "It's on Amazon Prime." Well, I couldn't get it because I'm not on Amazon Prime in the US, and it wasn't available in Australia. I saw him the following day. He said, "Well, did you watch it?" And I says, "No." He says, "Well, I'll tell you what to do." He said, "I'll send you a link." He said, "The password's to my vault." He says, "The password's good for 24 hours. And he says, watch the full documentary. And I did. The following day, John kind of contacted me. He says, did you watch the documentary? And the first words that come out of my mouth, excuse my language, I said, "You're a wanker." That's what I said. "You're a wanker. You knew, didn't you?" He says, "Yes, I did." He says, "Because you experienced exactly what I experienced. A glowing being, 4 foot. I was 7-year-old till I was 13. John Yost was about 7-year-old at the same time. Well, different age groups, but they got him at the same age of 7. But I was getting these visitations on twice a year, on average, sometimes 3 times, but till I was the age of 13. And when I watched his documentary, no joke, every hair and just came up on my neck. And I thought, I'm not freaking mad at all, because my father used to say, forget about it, you just got an over imagination. My father knew. He told me later on in life, I knew what you saw. I saw it myself. I wasn't going to scare you. He's an ex-Royal Marine Commander. At the time, he says, suck it up, son. It's your imagination going not crazy. That's what he told me when I was young.
Yeah.
And he admitted later on, so... so weird and wonderful ways. Well, I've got the music on there, guys. You know what that means, don't you?
There's music. Are we being thrown out?
It's like,
Lights are coming on.
yeah.
Well, I got to say, Heidi, it's been an absolute delight chatting with you. And getting a feel for who you
You're
are.
the same. Thank you.
Hey, we've got to get it back. What do you reckon, Jim?
Right?
Thank you.
We've got to have
Woohoo!
Heidi back again.
I passed.
Yes.
The test.
Hey. We'll have to make a spot for you here now. You're done, girl.
Hey,
And then we'll come
I got
over-
some
we'll come
submarine
over to yours.
pictures for you, Jim.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, I do. But yeah, come play. Get that intro going.
Anyway,
Thank you so much for
listen,
thank you for letting me play.
It was great, Heidi. Thank you.
All right,
Very
it was
much.
lovely
a
having you here.
delight. It was a delight having you on, and you're a delightful person.
Thank
Unlike
you.
somebody else that's here, but he lives in Australia. so it doesn't count.
Well, at least Heidi's changing the world one mind at a time.
Yeah. I'm
Mr.
quoting
B,
it.
especially Mr. B's truth seekers that kind of tamed the language down a bit.
Yeah, but it's been a fun almost 3 hours. That's usually
crazy.
the typical time that Robert and I talk, just him and I. And
Wow.
one of the reasons I feel so comfortable in this environment, this group of people, is we're all transmitting and receiving pretty much on the same frequency. There's some people you talk to and you might as well be talking to a wall, or you might be talking to your worst mother-in-law, one of the two. But this group, I feel so comfortable. I feel at ease. I'm a pretty confident guy anyway, but there's nothing up there that to say, oh well, maybe we should not go there. My idea is, hey, let's go jump in with both feet.
We relate. That's the magic word.
Yeah.
We relate. Relate is the word.
Yeah, there's
And
a shared vibe that we all have, which is great, because you can get in there, everybody gets to go in and pull on a string and see what comes out, right?
Yeah, and
You
half the
don't know
time
what
they
kind of
take
music you're gonna make.
the piss out of this old fella here.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So-
listen. Yes, Heidi, thank you very much for joining us. Let's do it again. Hey, welcome anytime. I'll just let you know you're available, and if you are, well, you can come and jump on. And Jim,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much, sir. It's always a pleasure to have you here, mate. Yeah.
You can thank my wife Rosemary
Thank
for
you.
not having no objection. She says, well, I guess I'll just have to talk to the dog.
Okay. Thank you, Rosemary. Yeah. And thank my dear wife, Mary, for she doesn't believe in this stuff, but she's very supportive just the same. So I've got to thank my lovely wife, And Gerald, man, you've been quiet all the way through there. Hey, it's nice to be in a show, be part of it, and just enjoy it, just to sit there. If you wanted to say something, you can say something,
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
if I would have had something any more to interject, I would have. But you guys were just right on top of every subject. There wasn't nothing more to add.
Hey,
Yeah.
guess what? We should have a show, guys. Hey, where we can agree to disagree. Let's get into something where let's kind of say, hey, that's bullshit. Excuse my language, but
Oh,
it's nice.
you want the big stinky turds on the table. That's what you're
Oh,
talking.
mate, look, I want to let's bring up the subject. I want you to say something like, I disagree with you, B. That's full of shit. No, I mean, I'd rather you say that than just go,
Well, you
Yeah.
need to tell us.
No.
You need to put that request in before we start the show, so we know.
Yeah,
I will, well, in future. And you're allowed to agree to disagree. I mean, as long as we're friends. Hey, we always will be friends. And this is what it's about. It's honesty from the heart. And we've all got an opinion. And that's in our opinions. Your opinion counts. Even if I don't agree, it still counts.
yeah, but Terry, you got to realize that opinions are like assholes.
Everybody
Everybody's
has
got one.
Yeah, but I want to be the pile in the house that I can annoy him. Anyway,
I know I'm going to talk to your characters, before Christmas. But Heidi, if I don't get a chance to talk to you directly, you and your family have a wonderful Christmas. And Gerald and Terry, and
Thank
of
you
course,
very much. You the
professor.
same.
You
Yeah, I just
too, Jim.
this is just a delightful group. I enjoyed tonight. I really did. I enjoy every night, but this was a fun. Almost 3 hours.
Almost.
yeah.
Couple
Hey,
of
we've
that
still,
with-
got 30, we've still got 32 views there. Hello, we have 32 views. Yes. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, and you can enjoy more of these shows. And give us a thumbs up, and tell your friends to come along and join us. And more the merrier. And on occasion we will have open doors. So when we're right into the nitty gritty, if anybody wants to say we're wrong, come on board, show your face, and say it to our faces, and we can say, yes, I hear you. Now piss off.
I'm used to that.
I don't mind. I like an open door once in a while. That'd be good. That'd be fun. But Heidi, welcome. You come back anytime. We want to make this a regular thing, and we'll come to your. Hey, we'll all go over to Heidi's show and really give her a hard time on her show, and she can sit back and just say, "Oh, let it unfold." This is what happens to me, Heidi. I started off. I look at Mr. Beast babbling again. Then they start it, and then I just sit back and say, "Okay."
He has it all planned.
I'm not silly, mate. And Robert, thank you very much, kind sir. As usual, my friend.
Well, it is always my pleasure. I always feel privileged when I see a crack in the door and I can get in. And
Me too.
I like to go in there and stir the pot a little bit because, I don't get out much, and when I do, I go stir up as much mess as I
It's
can.
a shut in.
Then I go home and watch it from afar and eat popcorn.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen soon, mate. I'm taking my GoPro and I'm going fishing, so you're going to be getting a lot of live streaming from me. Well, actually, I might go live streaming while I'm going fishing. So you'll say, "Oh, that's what Rockingham looks like. Oh, look at Mr. B. Isn't he fat?" And somebody said to me the other day, "How come you always wear black T-shirts, B?" And I said, "Because it hides my man boobs." That's right.
Well, I hear
I've got a marshmallow tummy here, a chubby tubby.
I hear that the dad bod is the hot thing among the more mature women out there now. So I thought, well, I got to get out of shape to get me a dad bod. So the holidays are coming, so I got an excuse.
Well,
Hey, I lost 4 pounds over Thanksgiving. I don't know how in the hell I did it. Heidi, just so you know where I came from, my peak weight when I was married to the fraud, because she wanted me to die, I was 375 pounds. I'm at 205 I'm at 205 right now. Yeah, I lost 115
Good for
pounds in
you.
5 months. My subconscious knew that I was going to have to go back in the open market. My conscious mind didn't know, but my subconscious mind did. And about 3 months after I hit I hit 260, came home from work, and there it was, order to vacate, divorce papers, and a restraining order. So I couldn't see my dogs. Had nothing to do with her. It was, she didn't want me to see my dogs.
Sound like Cruella.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it was such a delight when I saw her that she had gained 60 pounds
She
at
found
5
it.
foot tall. Yeah. So
Anyway, it's taken us 15 minutes to say goodbye.
You need to get control of the
Hollywood
show.
guy.
Come on now.
It's great.
gotta-
Anyway,
you gotta-
listen, guys, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Robert. Look,
always my
appreciate it.
pleasure. Always my
And,
pleasure.
And I'm going to play out with End Games, and then I'll let you all you guys go and have a wonderful. Everybody, thank you for joining us today, and hope to see you all next week. And be kind, be nice, aspire to inspire one another, and lift each other up. It's the only way to go. Thank you very
All right.
much for joining us. Catch you all later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
It's a mind-blowing situation. For the public, it's like, oh, a conspiracy theory, it's entertaining. But if you're actually in a responsible position and you find out that there's a whole secret government program that you don't know about, it's a shock.
This report comes from a shadowy Pentagon department that was shut down in 2012.
The disclosure movement has been hijacked by people parroting the narrative and the script being written by these black projects. I would say 90+% of everything that's going to come out is false.
The most widely seen UFO right now is not alien, it's actually ours.
It's a great cover story for all kinds of criminal activities. Blame it on the aliens, right?
If we are being visited by interdimensional beings, we should know about it.
This has the big disadvantage of the truth being much more unbelievable than the fiction.
It's the crash retrievals that are the Rosetta Stone for solving the UFO cover-up.
The implications of this is the difference between extinction level civilization versus one that's going to take off to the stars.
Oh, how